welcome back to the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Tonight is January 20th, 2026. May we all please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first thing that we have on our agenda for tonight is the public hearing on the first responder exemption.
We don't have anybody currently signed up, so we can, for comment. If anybody'd like to come up and make a comment, they can.
So the board is considering adopting an exemption to school property values for school taxes on any volunteer first responder who does not already take the federal exemption for consideration for an exemption. And the board has discussed this since its December 3rd board meeting, and we've had an open public forum to submit questions to or to submit feedback to, and tonight serves as the official public hearing should the board move forward with a decision on that matter. So anybody who would like to come to speak on that matter is invited to please come to the podium, state your name, and provide your input for the board to consider. So good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. Thank you, Board of Education. My name is Robert Outhouse. I live at 7 Watch Hill Road, Groveland, Hudson, New York, within the Hendrick Hudson School District. I am a lifelong volunteer in the Buchanan Aging Company, serving 45 years, and a graduate of Hendrick Hudson High School in 1982. I've been serving this community for 46 years now. I've seen the town of Portland, the village of Buchanan, and the county of Westchester give this exemption to our volunteers. There's no compensation other than giving these breaks through our tax dollars. I do understand the fiscal responsibility the board has, but we're in need in this generation of recruiting and retaining volunteers. And as taxes rise, so do they. They move away because they can't afford it. We lose people, we're in trouble. We need to continue to do something for the volunteers, and I think this is a great way to do it. As I said, the town, the county, the village of Buchanan have also done it. For the board members who don't know, this building and Frank G. Lindsay are served by the Portland Engine Company Montrose, 100% volunteer firefighters. The Buchanan Verplank Elementary School is served by 100% volunteers from the Buchanan Engine Company. And Furnace Woods and Blue Mountain are served by a combination career department out of the Mohegan Fire District. So I'm here to say, I hope you can do this. It means a lot to all of us in the community. Buchanan Engine Company dropped off a letter this evening in full support of the board to make this decision. So I thank you for the consideration, and I hope we get this done. Thank you.
So just to provide an update, we're just waiting in case anybody does show up that does want to provide any feedback for the board to consider in the public hearing, and we'll close the public hearing in a few moments.
At this time, if there is no one else here to speak, the board will be able to make our decision. Sidebar question, do we individually or just as a collective?
I think with this, we should probably do a roll call. You know, we've done that in the past, yes.
We can take a call. I'd like to make a motion to recess briefly. Second.
All in favor?
So the board will take a brief recess and return in approximately 5 minutes.
The board is now returning from a brief recess.
I'd like to make a motion to reopen the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, this time we would like to make our determination for the first responder exemption, and we will do a roll call. Erica, start on your side.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor? Whereas under recently enacted,
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
all in favor? Okay, at this time, the resolution to extend partial real property tax exemption for eligible volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers has been approved.
The next, so the next step on behalf of the school district is that we will reach out to the town assessor's office and notify them of this, the adoption of this resolution. I would encourage any interested community member who would like to see if they qualify for this exemption to reach out to the town assessor's office as well to make sure that they have the necessary paperwork on file. I believe the deadline is May 1st, but with everything, we want to encourage you to apply early.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board for our volunteers, and I know that this might not make a huge impact to you, but you guys make a huge impact to the community. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board, and this is one small thing. I know it does impact every household, but we feel that what you are doing is important, and we hear you and we thank you.
I just want to make them aware also, the taxable status date is May 1st. You need to get to the application before that. The savings or the exemption won't take place until the following school year, just so you're aware of that. It's not going to be affected on this school tax bill this year, but it will be the following year.
Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Thank you. So now looking at our agenda, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as
Motion to
stated?
approve the agenda as stated.
Second.
All in favor? And that brings us to our recognition of our high school students.
Thank you, President Silverman. So we have a very dense agenda this evening, and it's always important that we start off with the reason why we were all here, and that is our students. So I'd like to invite our host for this evening, and for a lot of evenings, the principal of the Hendrick Hudson High School, Ms. Lisa Martino Alves, to the podium to introduce the programs that we will be recognizing this evening. Ms. Martino Alves.
Thank you and welcome to Hendrick Hudson High School, to our cafeteria. Thank you families for coming out and students. We're very excited to recognize some of our excellent students. We have so many, but we're highlighting tonight 2 of the programs that we offer here at the high school. We have the Academy program, which is a program that is available to our 10th and 11th grade students. And you'll see some students here tonight who are in that Academy program and have moved on into 12th grade after the Academy program. I'll call up in a moment one of the instructors, our social studies teacher, Mr. Ott, is here, and he'll recognize our students from the Academy. I also want to call our attention to our program, Project Lead the Way. It is a unique program to our region. Not many schools offer this, but it really allows students to apply some of their science skills and scientific reasoning, not only in our science research program that is kind of joins along with our Project Lead the Way, but our electives that are available in this program. And we have Ms. Dempsey here, who's an instructor in that program, to speak a little bit about that program and recognize some students in that program. So without further ado, I'm going to first call on Mr. Ott from the Academy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Ott, social studies teacher for the Academy here in Hendrick Hudson High School. So firstly, I would like to acknowledge Nicole Fasciola. Nicole is a 10th grade student in our program, and she continuously pushes herself both academically and athletically. She is a member of 3 sports here at Hendrick Hudson High School: basketball, flag football, and field hockey. She is consistently looking to push herself, as shown by her interest in attending BOCES next year for welding, showing her multifaceted interest. Not only that, Nicole is a constant positive attitude in our program, exhibiting leadership regularly seen both on the athletic field and in the classroom. She is truly an exemplary example of the Academy's belief in character and positive attitude. So we'd really like to recognize her for that. Secondly, we would like to acknowledge Supt Taylor. I didn't see Supt Taylor here, but you can make it. I would love to just make you aware of the impact he brings to our program. So, as you may know, Supt did recently break Hendrick Hudson High School record for relay, which has put him on the path for nationals. That's really exciting to him. He's really been a fixture of the Academy community, building rapport with pretty much anyone he interacts with. He is one of the friendliest people you'll ever meet. Some of us refer to him as the mayor of the Academy due to his positive attitude and his ability to really put a smile on the face of anyone he passes by. He is constantly pushing himself past his limits, academically and athletically, as we've seen. He is someone that we would really love to recognize for his contributions to our program. Thirdly, we would like to recognize Max Cannon. Recently, he has decided to dedicate himself to the math education program at SUNY New Paltz. He has a firm belief in the importance of community building within education, both from his perspective as a student and as a future educator. As an artist, academic filmographer, and photographer, Max exemplifies the Academy's belief that creating a supportive school community will allow students to take positive risks. So we'd like to recognize Max for that. We'd also also like to recognize 11th grader Isabella Perry. This year she has pushed herself academically both at Hendrick Hudson High School and at BOCES, where she is completing their veterinary program. Beyond the classroom, she is an accomplished equestrian, competing with her horse Bubbles, regularly sharing how much she enjoys being in school this year. Her consistent, positive attitude demonstrates that being part of a supportive community has positively shifted her attendance, academic success, and given her the platform to grow into the leader she is becoming in the academy. Would also like to just recognize that Isabella is one of the nicest and most positive people you'll ever meet. Should get recognized here, so we'd like to recognize lastly, we would like to recognize 11th grader Patrick Murray. He has earned consistent recognition for creating a positive environment in the academy. Starting this year, Patrick has devoted himself to the culinary arts program at BOCES. Whether it is being a member of the drama club, supporting community service, or bringing in freshly baked goods for his classmates, and he does take orders. Patrick exemplifies the impact that a single person can have on their community and the power of a good pastry. So we would like to recognize him for that as well. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
And I'd like everyone from the Academy who is honored here tonight to come and take a photo. Come on up.
Cheese, everybody. Congratulations.
And now I'd like to call up Ms. Dempsey from our Project Lead the Way program.
I'm Mrs. Dempsey. I am new to Hendrick this year, but I took over a couple of the Project Lead the Way classes. And I actually knew about this program before I came here, because when we started off Project Lead the Way in our last district, we came here to observe, to see how it was done. So it really has been done very well here, exemplified by these 4 seniors who are they're graduating this year, and they're heading directly into medical type programs. So I'll tell you a little bit about them. Emma Barcolette is a 12th grade student. She's been in Project Lead the Way for 4 years, so it's a 4-year program. And she's currently taking biomedical innovations. She's an outstanding student, demonstrating success in the program. She also takes AP Biology, as do actually all 3 of these students, and they were well prepared to come to AP Biology as well. They're performing wonderfully. Emma has earned direct admittance to multiple baccalaureate nursing programs and has spent time volunteering in hospitals. And she is ready to leave Head HUD after this year and head into the medical world. So, Emma. The next student is Juliana DeSisto. Also, she has been in PLTW for 3 years. She actually said she regrets not starting as a freshman, but some students don't have time in their schedule to start as a freshman. And she has also chosen nursing as a career choice, and she has direct admittance to multiple programs. So she actually has a choice of programs and is still waiting on a few more acceptances. So Juliana, I don't think Juliana's here tonight, but yeah. Next, Samuel Newharter. Sam is also has been in PLTW for 4 years, an excellent student in AP Biology. He has earned direct admittance to Seton Hall's Physician Assistant Program, which is a 3+3 program. So in 6 years, he will have a master's degree, as long as he pursues the program, he'll have a master's degree and be able to work as a physician's assistant, which you might know. If you go to urgent care, you go to the emergency room, that's who you're seeing. That is the person you meet who will treat you in most cases. So it's an excellent program. It was his top choice, an excellent program. So. And last, Sophia Pereira has also been in PLTW for 3 years. She did not have space in it for her space in PLTW for her schedule her freshman year, but she's now taking medical interventions, and she has earned direct admittance to Penn State's kinesiology program, which is absolutely incredible. It opens doors to like all sorts of medical programs. So when if she continues and pursues and graduates, she'll be able to apply to med school or physical therapy school. Like there are so many openings at the end of this program, and it's also an excellent program. She also spent time shadowing at a hospital, and when she was there, she kind of like could follow what was going on. So that was pretty maybe so good actually.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you so much.
So congratulations to all of our students who are recognized this evening. Thank you to the parents who are supporting them and to our educational colleagues who are supporting as well. I think the two programs that Ms. Martino Alves chose to highlight demonstrate how even though we are a public school, there is an attempt to always try to personalize instruction and education and the experience for our students. So thank you so much for highlighting that, Ms. Martino Alves. And at this time, we are going to continue on with our agenda. You're more than welcome to stay for an exciting agenda about capital project updates and budget, or feel free to go home and get some well-deserved rest or study. So thank you.
So we move on to the next agenda item, which is our audience comments on non-agenda items. Carmen, do we have anyone signed up? All right, and that brings us to our presentation, starting with our capital project update with KSQ.
Thank you. So this evening we have another update provided from our architectural firm KSQ and our construction management, supported by our construction management firm Triton. We have Armand Cudrini, and Robert Furness joining us this evening to provide that update. I can tell you that Armand and Robert and their teams are very involved in terms of oversight, support, making sure that this stays on track, on budget, and also communicates with us frequently about how that progress is going. We have minimum once a month a meeting with myself, Mr. Merlini, Ms. Figuerella. Armand and Robert and their teams are always willing to support us and answer any questions that they may have. So we really appreciate their their time that they take to keep us updated on the wonderful improvements throughout the district. And now they're going to spend a brief couple of minutes just updating us on where we stand with our current phases and previous phases and where we're going, and also some of the details that we get an opportunity to get our eyes on before the next phase. So Armin, thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thanks so much. We appreciate this opportunity to update the board in the new year for essentially the phase 2 part of the bond project. A quick update on phase 1 first. Construction is substantially complete. There's just a couple of very, very minor elements that we're punching out. We did come in significantly below budget for phase 1, and we're still assessing some of the soft costs that were not spent in phase 1 to move those over to phase 2. The construction side, $785,000, we moved over to cover costs on phase 2. We're working with the prime contractors to finish and close out their paperwork, and then with Jill in the business office to get the SED all squared away. The biggest chapter in the presentation today for phase 2 is updates to the interior architectural renderings, and I will spend more time focused on that. We have phase 2 schedule update, and then as Mr. Franks and I promised back in, I believe it was back in the fall, we are now within 3% of budget for phase 2. That is within the margin of error. Our alternates that will be non-program related will get us right where we need to be depending on how aggressive the market is with our bid opening. So feeling very, very confident about that. So our vertical red line is in the middle of January. We do indeed have our SED permit to go to construction bid and construction for the phase 2 projects. We are on the street, so we're answering RFIs and managing that bid process. The bulk of the work will be completed in the summer. Some of the projects will leak into the fall of 26. We'll close out in December and then we'll finish construction in December, have some closeout and punch work in very early 27, and then close out all the paperwork by March 27. Go ahead. So I wanted to pivot now to talk about a revisit to the interior, to the interior renderings. And what John and I, you met our design director at the last meeting, I wanted to do was really start back with the color palette. And the idea is that these are the colors that we're proposing that create the lexicon for all the colors in the phase 2 projects for the bond. And the idea is that if we like these colors, we'll only be drawing from them, and we'll have more successful interior designs. My belief is we're probably 90% complete. We're still pushing on some of the interiors. I think we've got it pretty good on a number of them, but there's a few that we're still tweaking we want to talk about with you all. But so this is paint colors, wall colors, ceiling tile, different floor finishes, and then furniture outwork. So with that, I'll move to the high school learning commons. 2 slides, please. So super excited about the new entry into the commons. So you can just see the existing ramp that's tapering up on the left, and we'll have a new big open space on the right. This is where we think we can have post-board meetings and other elements in the main learning commons, taking advantage of the windows there. So the idea with the big idea for the renovated learning commons here at the high school is coming into a space, program space, not the bottom of a ramp. Next slide. So now up at the top in the main, where the main collection is and study spaces, this is looking across to where the ramp is in the back corner in this slide. Again, you're seeing a wood ceiling, the darker hen-hug blue carpet in the center with the more taupe colors surrounding, wooden shelving units with, white metal shelving units with a wooden top. So again, we think we've got it pretty close this time, but we're anxious to hear feedback and input from the board. And now further into the next slide, further into the collection area, this is looking back at the exit stair at the back of the existing library. And those are the 3 images I have for the learning commons at the high school. Moving now downstairs to the music instruction spaces, completely different than what we had in the fall, I guess in December. So you're seeing now the floor finish is that hen-hug blue, the tiers that wrap around, the vinyl flooring, wood floor look in the center, and then the felt ceiling that allows sound to go up, which is consistent with what the acoustician asked for in the orchestra. Okay. Moving over to the music room adjacent to the orchestra room. Again, that luxury vinyl plank wood flooring, the similar felt ceiling, and you're seeing more of the Hendrick blues that animate the space and the fabrics and so on in that area. Moving up to the 300 wing, the mezzanine underneath the cupola. This is the revised space there. And again, this is more subtle, so you're seeing the darker hen hug blue color in the chairs on the right, as well as the carpet, and then a lighter blue on the left, and then the taupey or color of carpet in the foreground. Yeah, so those are, we didn't re-render every single one-to-one rendering, but I hope enough to describe the approach and how we think we can move the process forward. Moving now to the Blue Mountain Middle School. This is the upper commons, and again, a similar strategy with the hen hug blue carpet that wraps around the white metal bookshelves and the wood top. In this image, to the left is the cafeteria, and then to the right are the small breakout rooms that are consistent with the learning commons for that space. Next slide, we characterize this as the lower commons. You're looking across to the windows that look out to the parking area and the athletic field in front of the school, and the same interior strategy there. This is the breakout classroom that's within the learning commons. It also has natural daylight on the right, and then looks, the window shades, or the privacy shades are down, but this looks into the upper, or the lower commons, which would be on the left. Is it okay that I'm going at this pace?
Yep.
And then, next slide. The small breakout rooms, this is really a furnishing strategy that we borrowed from our collegiate practice, but to have a small table against the wall with a flat screen. This is good for 2, 3, 4, even 5 or 6 students and a faculty member can fit in these spaces. You have direct access to media and so on. Okay, so moving now to BV. So here you're seeing the darker blue along the back wall in the learning commons. The breakout room is on the left. And again, you know, we're feeling pretty confident about this strategy for the white metal shelves with the wooden top, and that'll sort of be a standard for the phase 2 project. In the same space, looking further back from the corner across the commons, we really like this curved bookshelf element. It's a placemaking strategy in the center of the commons, and then we can also circulate around. We can do project work on top of the low shelves if we want to. Very functional and versatile for the use. And then the large breakout room, really using this bold hen hug blue color to accent the back wall and the soffits on the right. The glass is looking out into the building corridor, and then to the right is the commons on the other side of the glass. And then similarly, the small breakout room is a fishbowl idea, so there's glass on both sides, and then a teaching wall on the left, so you see, again, the flat screen with the table pushed to the wall. There's also soft seating in that space. And that's a very happy, ED student on the left. Moving now to Furnace Woods. I really like this, what we did with this, the dark blue color, the henna blue color, but to really outline the picture window. It lets all the natural daylight in. In the foreground, you're seeing the lighter blue furniture, chairs, and carpet. And then most of the stack and the study spaces are on the right in this rendering. In the next slide, the entrance is immediately on your right, and you're looking across to the interior spaces where the stacks, study, and support areas are. And then a view across from the main entry. Again, the main entry is on the right in this slide, and you're seeing the shelving units and other study spaces. And the last slide here is looking across that big picture window. Students are invited to sit on this. It's really safe, but it's also very visually observable, so that everyone's in sort of the observation in the middle of the room. You're seeing on the left a teaching wall. And again, a lot of daylight and working with our lexicon of colors that I talked about earlier in the presentation. It's still on Furnace Woods. This is one that we're still working on. We moved away from the Roy G. Viv theme and we're looking at sort of variations on the Henhug blue color. Really, really pleased with the wooden language that surrounds the proscenium and the stage. And we're still working on sort of the colors. If you go to the next slide, it would make up those those linear elements in the ceiling. These are the same style table that was installed at BV in a similar renovation a year and a half ago. Then our last school in the presentation is Frank G. The next image is again looking at the second floor learning commons. You're seeing the Supt desk on the left, the modular tables on the right. They happen to be in U configurations, but they can come apart and be reconfigured in any sort of workable, whatever the teacher sees happening for the program for that afternoon. And then next slide, circulation desk on the left, and then the main study spaces and STEM activities on the right. That's our prepared presentation. I apologize, I feel like I went real fast, but I wanted to share with you. We are still accepting comments. We think this is an iterative process where we listen, draw, and I feel like we brought it most of the way where it used to be, but we want to get it perfect and we want to have it input.
So Armand, if I may, President Silverman, before I turn over for the Board of Education to ask questions or follow up or provide comments, I want to just say thank you to you and your team, and Robert, to you and your team. I've been a part of 5 capital projects, including this one. Chloe, I'm in a similar situation. I was a senior in high school and they did a capital project, so I went through all the dust but didn't get any of the fun. And your teams have been accommodating, collaborative. You've listened, you've been responsive, and it's been a pleasure to work thus far with you through this process, and look forward to continuing that work. And I know that this presentation was developed in part by a feedback session that was held to bring many of our new administrative team and many of our new board members who may not have been on the board or on the facilities committee up to speed, so that they felt that they had a good working knowledge of that, and some feedback came from that as well too that helped inform this presentation. So thank you for that. So I'll turn it back over to you, President Silverman, if there are any questions from the board.
Just when I was looking at there, thank you for this presentation. In some of those breakout rooms, would it be possible, I don't know if it's a cost swap, for some of the walls when you paint them to do a dry erase paint so that students can brainstorm on the walls in there?
Yes.
Okay.
And we may already have that, but I have to check. But vertical writing surfaces are really so integral to STEM learning and brainstorming and writing.
Yes,
it
is great. So that's why, I was just looking at some of these, and I think that would lend itself perfectly to some of those spaces.
Wall opposite from the teaching wall where the flat screen is, so we keep the two things separate.
Start with there, Allison. Well,
2 quick, 1 question. I love the low bookcases. I love that it's accommodating the little people. So they don't have to reach so far, they can access all the books. There will be enough space for all the books though, right? Because it looks like the library shelves have shrunk.
Forgive me, which school are we?
All the elementary schools, so Furnace Woods, Frank G, BV, the low bookcases, just to make sure there's enough capacity to hold all the books. I'm sure that there is, right? I just wanted to double check.
Yes, and we are not finished with that effort, so as soon as we get through the bid process, we're going to be pivoting to have principals workshops with a furniture vendor, and actually it's NSC, I think we're working with Frank G now to sort that level of detail out.
Perfect, awesome. And then the second thing was Anicia, yeah, great, love that. The second thing was at Furnace Woods, while you're working on the color scape for the auditorium cafeteria, one of the suggestions, and I don't know if anybody else got this note, was in there before was a mural that was painted by students of students. And since it's a blank space, to maybe leave it blank so that we could do something like that again and bring the community into the building as part of, that's a suggestion, it's not something we have to do. But I kind of like that you didn't take it too far, so that we might actually be able to do something similar to what we had before. maybe. I don't know, just a suggestion. I like that it was,
Just in that we're working with Anthony, we're going to document that existing before it's, tampered with. And there was also maybe a plan for these, but we're still having that discussion.
Okay, great.
But I like the idea of a fresh canvas with
Yes,
for the next
exactly.
generation.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Alexis, do you have anything?
No, just one little comment. These tables, I think BV has the same style, but they're benches. I think, because I see potential
Not enough seats.
5-year-olds plopping off, and they also sit 3 on a side of it. Just throwing that out there. And they have the logo on the top.
They do.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that as part of the furniture discussion.
We used to have those styles here, they're right back there, and they cause a lot of issues here. The circular
This
seats.
style?
Yeah,
They,
we were
they
always
like wobble and
replacing
break,
them, right?
and Lauren's nodding her head. Because they, yeah. She could fill you up.
Corey?
I was just, first of all, thank you so much. I know, it seems like a lot of improvements, color-wise, it's brighter. Two things that I was missing, and you're probably still working on it, was the bathroom example that you had in the last presentation, and then the servery also.
The servery for Front Chief?
No,
Blue Mountain.
It was perfect.
So we just
But it's not in there.
we didn't get to that
Okay,
level
cool.
of detail. We wanted to sort of tackle, it felt like the learning commons at the high school and the middle school, and then the
Oh, I see.
STEM continuum was where we went first, and then we'll
Okay,
continue to
cool.
look at those.
I had asked Armin to provide an update on some of the major areas that came out of that previous meeting.
Got it.
Okay. And the only other thing I was going to say overall is, I feel like when you guys are moving to the next stage and picking out actual furniture and, go for some bold colors. Like, it feels a million times brighter now than it did before. And I'd love to see a little less like monochrome and more just,
And especially furniture, because you're not committed to that forever.
Exactly.
It's not like, like a wall covering that you. that's
Right, it's a
30
great
years.
way to
Yeah.
bring in I like your use of the light yellow, and that sort of brightens up that whole space rather than it being all the blue. So it's really nice though, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Chloe just wanted to add.
Oh, I was just gonna add that, and I think Allison said this, but I liked how, because I know that before I went to Furnace Woods and they had the colors, this is such a non-issue, but I think that if we were to redo it, I think that either keeping the old one or putting new colors back of the kids, because I think it was just unique and it made it really different and stand out from the other schools. And the other schools could have something like that, but I think that it was really awesome because I was in the 50th thing, and it's the 50th year of Furnace Woods, and they have the murals on the wall with the little things. So I just think that that'd be cool if either new kids do it or you keep the old one.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. It looks amazing, night and day from what we originally saw, but I love it. I just had a couple of, because I'm a furniture person, as I like to refer as myself. You show a lot of white laminate for the bookcases. Is that laminate, or is that going to be a different material? Just because I think about over time, just children using it, that's going to become, I don't know if it was metal or if you meant it to be laminate or what the composite.
You're referring to the top?
No, the surround,
They're
the
metal.
cases, yeah. Oh, they're metal.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're powder coated,
Okay.
shop coated metal from the factory.
Perfect. That was my only question that I had. Everything else looks
And
amazing.
designed for schools. I mean, they're going to take the durability, or
Okay.
have the durability that they need to.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
So I also agree with Allison and Chloe. I did the first mural there when I was in 5th grade, so I have a strong connection to it. And I think a lot of people in the community who have kids here also worked on that mural.
At Furnace Woods.
Yeah, and it was also probably when she was there, they did redo some of it, updated some of the paint, and I think fixed up some of the characters on it. But I'm not saying you have to keep it just because of me and other people, but I do think it does give something different to the schools, because it is like a drab room. So, and the kids who are maybe just starting out there now, by the time you do the renovations, like if you just take something totally away, they'll notice that it's not as like bright in there, you know what I mean? So even if they're, like Allison said, even if you save some of it and have some, you know, we have a project where the kids can paint on it, because that's how it was originally done. We were all the students there and we painted it for the anniversary, and then she probably worked on it for their
For the
anniversary.
50th, yeah,
We did the 25th.
And I did the 50th.
Do the math.
What?
You just did math.
Yeah. So,
We're delighted to see it, and I'll circle back
I mean,
with the superintendent.
whatever you guys
And it's
had
not
in the plan,
It's not a
but-
cost to do that, and
Yeah.
it's part of the heritage of the school, so we'll
I do think more murals in the schools are a good idea, like all the schools, and to let kids paint and, you know, different classes, and that's just an idea for down the road, but you can in here.
There's murals in this building that have been recently done in the high school.
Yeah.
I think they're working on a Centennial,
Maybe we
some
could
type of
just
Centennial
keep
mural.
Just keep mine part.
But we gotta paint your kids around.
So, thank you for this, it's great. My only thing was, so like at BV, we have, in the STEAM rooms, we have these, the larger clear rooms, like study work areas. But in the high school, it's hard to see how deep they are. Study areas, to me, they look very shallow. How, are they as big for the clear study areas for the students?
Are you referring to the breakout, the smaller breakout?
Yes.
Can I report back? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to generalize.
Okay.
But I have the floor plans in a separate slide.
All right, because I think the part of the concept of that when it was initially brought was for the kids to be able to go in together and do work together. Because part of the problem in our library is that the students really can't talk. So we really need spaces, and we've talked about this before we even had the bond up, that they need spaces to be able to go into and collaborate. And I don't think those look big enough. And I think I said that in my.
The high school Learning Commons has fewer spaces that are much larger. I think there's a whole classroom size space, and then a medium space. I think there may be 3 total.
Okay. But they're meant for individual students to go in?
No, the solo study is more in the furniture clusters out in the perimeter.
Okay.
So there's not a bank of small breakout spaces like we have at the middle school, or proposed for the middle school.
Okay. That's the instructional
I think I see
operational
this
part
column going
that you
like
guys
this.
got to come up with so that the kids actually feel like they want to sit and work and collaborate and do projects in our high school library. Because right now it does not happen. That's a parent comment. That's not on you. That's, let's make the library welcoming so that kids have a space to actually do their work and collaborate in. Maybe it shouldn't be a silent room. I don't know. That's the operational instructional piece that all of you have to weigh in on, but that's feedback we get from the students all the time, so.
Understood.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments might have come up? Thank you.
Thanks for the second, so we think we working together, we're getting there. Yeah.
Yes.
We're
Thank
excited
you.
to see the finished product.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert, for being here this evening. And of course, you're more than welcome to stick around for the presentation. But, we have kept you away from your families this evening too as well, so thank you. We'll update you at a later time.
So we now have 3 program budget presentations, and our first one is operations and maintenance, then we'll have transportation, and then athletics.
We're going to switch that around.
Okay, we are going to switch that around.
So I'll ask Greg to pull it up as our presenters get ready to speak. So as President Silverman said, we are beginning our budget development process for the 26-27 school year. Greg, I'll have you go ahead and switch to the next slide. I did have a very long explanation because you're going to see this mission a few times, and you're probably going to wonder why it's up there. I will save that explanation on Napoleon's Corporal for a later date because we do have enough content to go through this evening. But if you want to get a head start on the meaning behind why we continue to see our mission, you also see our administrative priorities for this year, which is actions for the future, and we can go to the presentation objectives on the next slide here as well. So this is what we hope to accomplish by the end of 56 slides this evening, I think. But it is the beginning of our detailed program budget development season here at Hendrick Hudson. So these are the objectives that we hope to accomplish in our short time this evening. And then Greg, if you want to go to the next slide. Before we do call up Mr. Morkey, our new athletic director, to present his program budget, I just want to talk about the budget as a story. We're going to see a lot of numbers, we're going to see a lot of spreadsheets, we're going to see a lot of data. And it's important to remember that our work is not just these series of data and spreadsheets and ledgers, but it is a story. A school district budget at its core is a narrative about our hopes, our dreams, and our values for our community's children. It tells the story of the engaging and welcoming teaching and learning environments we strive to create every day. Over the next several weeks, you will hear the specific chapters of this story as we present program, department, and building-based budgets. These chapters will highlight the best parts of our narrative, how we are using funds to support the wonderful activities that help our students achieve their maximum potential. However, every engaging story requires context, a setting, and often a conflict that protagonists must overcome. Tonight, I'm going to start with a preface to understand exactly where our story begins. Greg, if you want to head to the next slide, please. In any story, the preface sets the stage. And for Hendrick Hudson, our preface involves a stark collision between a failing financial framework and our moral mandate to protect the interests of this community's children. We are not facing a theoretical problem here at Hendrick Hudson, and it is not a theoretical problem that anybody in this room has created. It has been forced upon our district. We are navigating an immediate financial crisis driven by the shutdown of Indian Point, which resulted in the loss of nearly 1/3 of our annual operating revenue. To put this in perspective, in the 2019-2020 school year, the pilot or payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Indian Point and Energy Center accounted for approximately $24 million, or 31% of our budget. Today, funds we receive from a pilot by the new owners of the Indian Point Energy Center, Holtec, has dropped to $3 million, representing less than 4% of our resources. This is the central conflict of our plot. We have lost a massive portion of the revenue required to run our school district, yet the needs of our students, our protagonists, have grown more complex, and they have a key expectation to have a high-quality education program. Greg, if we want to go to the next slide, please. So in every great story involving conflict, we look for heroes to arrive and turn the tide. In early December, I stood before the Indian Point Decommissioning Oversight Board, a room filled with legislators and policymakers, and I asked for that help. We outlined clear paths for them to become the heroes of this story. We advocated for the Stranded Act, which would honor the federal government's promise and provide approximately $26.6 million annually in impact aid for the 1.7 million kilograms of spent nuclear fuel stored in our backyard. We asked for the REACT Act to allow decommissioning trust funds to aid our community, and for the extension of the Cessation Mitigation Fund, which is set to expire for us in the 27-28 school year, which also decreases $2 million annually while we are using it. I was clear that without this aid, we risk a moral catastrophe. However, I must be transparent with you tonight. Since delivering those remarks this past fall, no hero has since reached out to me. While we remain grateful for the past support from partners like Senator Harcum and Assemblywoman Lovenberg, the major systemic fixes that we need have not yet arrived. Greg, if we can go to the next slide, please. This brings us to the setting of our story, which consists of the variables that we must operate within. We are constrained by a state-mandated 2% tax cap and a finite nature of our fund balance. The financial damage of the Indian Point closure, coupled with this cap, has created a setting where responsible governance is becoming mathematically difficult under the current formula. And I don't want to say impossible, because I know with the team we have assembled here, we can weather through this. If we propose a budget that truly meets the financial needs created by this crisis without outside aid, we risk having to go over that mandated tax cap, or piercing the cap. That would require a 60% majority, or facing a supermajority in favor of that vote, or face a contingent budget that would force the dismantling of non-mandated programs like sports, arts, and electives, for example. This is the tension of our setting. We are fighting to protect a world-class future for our students while operating within a financial framework that is stacked against us. Later this evening, after we have looked at the first chapters of our story from our department leaders, who will present in a few moments, and program leaders, I will return to my specific thoughts on these variables we have to operate in, specifically regarding the tax cap, the use of any reserves, and how we will manage expenditures to help balance our budget. Despite the current conflict and the current lack of a legislative hero, the story for our students must go on. We cannot wait for others to save us. We must write the next chapters ourselves. I have every confidence in the governance and administrative team we have assembled to overcome the conflict in front of us. Tonight, we begin reading the chapters that focus on the vibrant life of our district. You will hear from athletics, transportation, operations and maintenance. These presentations represent the resilience of our district, how we continue to transport, house, and coach our students to excellence despite the obstacles. We will tell the best parts of our story beginning this evening, how we are maintaining an engaging and welcoming environment. As we move through these presentations, please keep in mind that our goal is a happy ending for our students, a transformative, enriching experience that positively impacts them for the rest of our lives. Now, I will ask Mr. Bo Morkey to prepare to come to the podium, but before we begin with our athletic budget, I would like to speak about the process. You're going to hear a lot of information. You will hear 3 program budget presentations, and I would ask that to keep these presentations moving along and to allow our storytellers to tell their story. I would ask that all questions are held until after all 3 of those presentations before I start to speak again. We'll give you some time to have those questions answered. I would suggest that there's a question that you have, please write it down so you don't forget it, and you do get to have an opportunity to ask that of our presenters, but that will help keep them with the flow. So this evening, I will now ask Greg to turn the slide, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Bo Morkey at his first board presentation since assuming the role as the full-time athletic director in January to come to the podium. And as he pulls out his notes, please note that in this evening's presentation, you have 2 new administrators to our district presenting on their budget for the very first time. So, Mr. Morkey, welcome this evening.
Thank you for having me. You guys hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate you allowing me to speak and to share some budget items here, but I do want to also tell a story of what I envision, what I have found, and where I think we are going with athletics. Actually, if we can go back to that mission statement, it'd be great. So when I read this, and I remember calling Mike and I said, well, are we sticking with this? Is this it? Is this the mission? Is this what we're doing? And he said, yeah, it's in our policy. We can't change it. This is what it is. It's okay, great. So now it's about to be, emblazoned on my wall behind me. But I keep seeing these emails come out regarding, listening, learning, helping, and leading. And when I hear that and I see that and combine it with our mission, what the word that comes to mind for me, and it's what's kind of fueled the fire for me, is inspiring our students, right? And now when I went back and I looked at our accomplishments for the year, this past year, 2025, you're going to see a lot of that. The last time anyone presented, my predecessor, was January of 25, so we weren't able to talk about winter accomplishments, spring accomplishments, and fall. So that's what I'm going to share with you a little bit right now. We conclude 3 seasons. I learned a week ago that our varsity basketball coach, Steve Perseglani, he's also the head of our National Honor Society, and 50% of our athletes, 50% of our National Honor Society are athletes. And I wanted to share some of these larger accomplishments. Another one was our phys ed program. And some of our coaching staff created out of thin air a program called House, Hand-Hud Austin Unified Championship Sport of Excellence, which was almost like a mini Olympics for our unified sports groups, right? And now this past year, Croton jumped onto it, and 2 more schools want to jump onto it. So these are just some of the things happening behind the scenes that we don't get to know about a lot. And that's back to that word inspire. where our teachers and coaches are really working in an amazing way to support our students. We can go to the next one. This was much more focused on physical education. I don't know if all of us know this, but we were honored by Special Olympics nationally as the New York State Championship Unified High School of the Year because of everything we do with unified sports. There are 2 schools in the state that are considered championship schools. This leads to that, and it's something that I think is going to be coming in the near future. Mr. Fredman, I almost called him Brad. Mr. Fredman, for the past 3 years, has led a delegation from Russia, right? Phys ed teachers, special education teachers, literally from all over Russia for the past 3 years, have been coming to see what we're doing with our students in phys ed classes, in our unified program, and they're bringing that back to that area. One of the first times I met them a few months ago, the biggest part of the conversation early on was how long did it take them to get to the airport? Because they were coming from other sides of Siberia just to get to the airport to get to here, which was pretty amazing. A few other pieces of things I'd like to share. Brad and Dina last year presented on cultivating collaboration for BOCES, right? 15 other schools attended that professional development. Midway through the professional development, they had our sailor class show up. And the sailor class were assessing the program that these teachers created and gave them feedback. It was pretty amazing. And then finally, our high school instructional leader for physical education and health, he's an executive director at Northwell Health and brings that expertise to all of our health classes and health curriculum. We can move forward. Here are some specific accomplishments. I went back and looked at, again, winter, spring, and fall, and just in those seasons alone, 142 all-league, 1 all-conference, 19 all-county, 38 all-section, and 10 all-state awards to individual student athletes. Something really amazing, and considering the size of our school, that's phenomenal. Here are our 5 absolute massive standouts. Victor Delgado, I think his name can't get out of the paper because he keeps winning every single season. You can see the accomplishments up there. He's going to be on his way to Cornell, and we'll be running for Cornell this next year.
Dartmouth.
I apologize. Dartmouth. Thanks for correcting. Justin Parks, football. Just an amazing athlete. He also holds now 9 new school records. Supt de Leon, boys volleyball, was a merged team. They went as far as they could. They were amazing this year. Sasha is a senior. She's going to be graduating this year. And Lucy is at University of Tennessee, was Player of the Year last year. I also went back and I looked at our whole program. When you look at every single team we have that competes. And I wanted to put some info together. I did not feel or think it would be this high, and it was. So, winter of last year, 75% of our teams made postseason play. Spring, 78%, and this past fall, 82%. What does that really mean? It means 1 to 2 teams per season aren't making the playoffs, right? And when we look at our population and compare to who we play against, our kids, our coaching staff, our staff, they're doing an amazing job to really separate themselves from the rest, and I'm very proud of them for that. Getting into the nitty-gritty of the budget, and I'll share some items here. Okay, thank you. I sort of had it right there.
Okay.
But good. So equipment, it's pretty much staying the same. There's no change. Right now we've used about half of it, maybe a little more than half from what we had planned for the year before. Looking at our larger item needs, 2 soccer goals are desperately needed, so that's gonna use up the majority of that for next year. Moving forward with supplies, this is a normal increase. I looked at the past 3 years, 22, 23, 22, 24, 24, 25, to sort of understand where we'd be moving forward to. A couple items there are going to be expensive football items, but when I looked at it, awards, plaques, and banners, year after year, were the most increased per item. And so I was like, okay, well, knowing how much we win, knowing what our teams are doing, who's graduating, almost trying to make an analysis of where we would be at. That's why you see that change there. And in anticipation, as you know, contractual are sort of our connection to the different entry fees we have to put in, the different things with Section 1 that we have to put in for. It's almost like team management. And then with that, we have some merger obligations, as well as we took on purpose cheer choreography, because it helps offset the cost individually for student athletes to be a part of cheer. And that's that change you saw there. It's a small one. Coaching salaries, natural increases connected directly to the collective bargaining agreement. Nothing major happening there. We do have 2 new teams, or actually not true. We have 1 new team, United Unified Bocce, but we also have a new coach, cheer, a varsity cheer assistant coach that will be added, and that's what accounts for that. And then finally, BOCES, really big number. Having said that, a majority of that is our officials, but not a large increase from last year to this year, or even the years before. That's been pretty standard. Want to move forward. So I put together here, the past 2 years, this past year, 25, 26, and then next year, 26, 27, these are either new teams or existing teams that are going to be continuing or were new last year. The 2 underlying teams merged field hockey with Croton. That's a new development. It's in the works, but it's going to happen. And then Unified Bocce is going to be starting in the fall. So it's going to be our 4th unified team. The rest were things from this past year that will continue for next year. And then just some final steps here, right? So when I look at this, the presentation you saw last year had 67 teams and 33 programs. When I add unified sports, it turns into 71 teams and 34 programs. And that's really where we're at. My next steps, and seeing what we've done in the past and where things are moving, heavy focus on physical education, heavy focus on health education. A wellness committee is already brewing, which will go from kindergarten to 12th grade. Fundraising and booster clubs, I want to wrap my hands around that, which I'm already doing. Coach education, something that's sort of an underlying issue I would like to address. Obviously, facilities is a nonstop conversation. And then, maybe it should be at the top, but a huge thing that I'm beginning to make as a standard obligation at a varsity level is that varsity programs connecting with our communities, right? And how do they do that, and when do they do that, and why do they do it? And then how do we do something where it's sustainable and it can be continued, whether the varsity coach changes or not? So these are some of my future plans. And in that picture, that's actually one of our coaches of the year this year. Section 1 coaches of the year. And this is the last thing here. So just a massive thank you from me. This is an honor. I really do feel like this is an honor. Helping every student grow, thrive, and reach their full potential inspires me every day. With support of the Board of Education, I'm honored to serve our community with leadership, integrity, and commitment to excellence. I look forward to collaborating on and building meaningful standards and benchmarks for physical education, health, and athletics that foster lifelong learning, wellness, and achievement. Thank you, Board of Education, for your trust and continued support. Those 2 teams are our girls flag football Section 1 champions, and this past fall, our cross country Section 1 champions.
Thank you, Mr. Morkey. Bo, I'll ask you to stick around for questions after the presentation. So thank you to our athletic department for leading us through the tunnel and jumping off the page of our stories. I will ask Ms. Salma to come to the podium to present her transportation budget and drive us home through our story, so to speak. I'm trying for every pun possible. While Lisa's getting ready, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Figuerella and our entire cabinet team and our Board Finance Committee who has provided input as these presentations have been developed so that our presenters and everybody has a good understanding of what is going to be presented tonight. And Ms. Salma, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but thank you for coming to the podium.
Okay. Good evening, and I'd just like to thank everybody for welcoming me here to the district. And I would just like to say that your drivers here are very committed. It is remarkable. Not every district I've known that I've ever worked with and very rarely even come in contact with had custodial drivers. So that's a different thing altogether, which I feel for the students of this district must be awesome, because they see these gentlemen and ladies as they're there to pick them up in the morning when it's raining, when it's dark, everything, and they're trying to transport them. At the meantime, they're coming back and they're going in and they're cleaning the buildings and moving the furniture and supplying everything that our children need, and then back out on the road again. So I would say when they see them out and about or in the mall or at the supermarket, that they must be very grateful and really appreciate what these people are doing for them in the district. And I know that the drivers do, it's common and it's the thought of every driver that, these are like our children. We transport them every day. We know a lot about them. We know where they live. We know their aunts, their uncles. They have a cat, a dog. They have a red car, a black truck. They have a white house. They have a picket fence. They know the neighbors. They know the grandparents. So they do know a lot about the children. And I think it's a pretty nice relationship, and I think they all do try and strive very hard. Now we'll go into this. The mission, what we are charged with doing is to ensure each student is an engaged, passionate learner who achieves their maximum potential and contributes to society. We are to provide safe and efficient transportation for the students of this district. We want them to feel comfortable, we want them to feel safe, and we want them to be able to talk to their driver and explain anything that they might need to, if they're having any problems or anything like that, or even if they're happy, we'd like to know about that. In 2025 and 2026 initiatives, we have 3 new buses. That was in the program. We did receive 1 small bus already, and that is already out in the fleet and they're using it. We do have 2 more large buses that are expected to be delivered by the end of January. Hiring and replacement of custodial and chauffeur subdrivers. We are in very great need of the chauffeur drivers at this point. These are replacement. We have already had them. We just had a number of many districts are going through this in New York State and in the country and actually around the world, where it's very hard to get bus drivers right now. So it's not new people, it's just replacing some open jobs that we have. Stop arm camera, that's another thing that was brought in. It was activated last year, but it wasn't live. So we have gone live since September of this year. That's working out very well. There's also district transportation is continuing to participate in a shared service model, which reduces expenses, where we come together with a bunch of other districts locally, and if we should need to have a bus going to a certain school, that we might be able to put a couple children with them, and vice versa. If we're going there already, we might be able to transport a couple of their children. It works very well. I've seen it work in many districts, and it works very well here. There's also going to be a demolition of a small building behind the bus garage. We're in need of space, and I don't know if maybe Anthony will be discussing that more, but I will bring it up to further on in this presentation. But In 2026 and 2027, that this upcoming year, again, our biggest push will be to get some more chauffeur bus drivers. It's tough to get them. They don't come in as usually as drivers, so many times we have to train them, and so that will be an expense. Training for incoming existing drivers, like I said, the existing ones also get regular training, many testing throughout the year, and the incoming will also, it's quite hefty. It'd be beautiful if some already licensed drivers would walk into our garage. That would be fantastic, but unfortunately a few and far between. But we have trained some drivers in the past that have, they're brilliant, they're great drivers, everybody's very enthusiastic coming on board, so we have high hopes for them. Also add one more license for Route Finder Plus, which is the routing system that we use for the school district. There we will be attaining another license, and then there'll be some training needed for that. Okay, that'll make it so there's more, there's 2 or 3 people now that can route, which is important to have. In 2025, 26 EV highlights, that is electric vehicles. A lot of new things coming at us with this in the entire state of New York. We are right now currently working with Polera and Bird Bus. Bird Bus will supply the buses, that's who we'll purchase them from, and the chargers. The Electrical Equipment Solutions, and they will be in charge of helping to set those up. And the Mobility House will be, they will help us with our, with the computer part of it and setting up them and maintaining and watching over, how the chargers actually work and how they communicate with the buses and everything. And then we'll also, of course, Con Ed will be involved. And we are almost completed our electrical vehicle transition plan. Okay, we are currently in that. That is Polera who's pushing that for us, and they work for the state. 2 electric buses should be arriving soon. They will get here somewhere probably in February, we're hoping. So they'll be, we're eager to, get involved and see what these things have to offer. I've been in the business a while, so I have come in contact with some of the electric vehicles. So I have a slight bit of knowledge with that, but we are learning every day. 2 chargers we found out too from the Polera electrification plan, that 2 chargers can be installed without having any upgrade to our service. So for those 2 buses coming in, there won't be any extensive upgrade at this point. Training for mechanics and drivers will be done by then with Bird Bus. There is not a tremendous amount of training. It's basically the same bus, but it is a different power system. So once they can work on everything except for they will get to one point with the power system, the motor, the electric motor. We will then use another company or so to work on that. Also, any training that the drivers need, Bird Bus will supply at that time also. And I have been, we've been looking at the drivers. There are certain drivers that will fit an electric bus beautifully because the way you drive an electric bus, they do recharge themselves as we go. So if you're a driver that allows the bus to do the work, and as you're coming up to a stop sign, it will automatically be recharging and building up as that goes. Challenges. Basically, a big challenge is to get the custodial chauffeur driver positions. The more drivers we have, the better everything is going to go. It's that way across the board. Train, or recruit already licensed drivers will improve everything there is to do with transportation. Bus hydraulic lift, we're going to need another one of those. We have one, and to maximize our mechanic staff, and that will be through a ban. Okay. Right now, we have district transportation equipment used to enhance the transportation department. We do keep $20,000 in there. That is for any kind of like an emergency type of thing where we may have a transmission go. We may need to access this to get the money for that, or a motor, or possibly an air conditioning system. District transportation, contractual expenditure, repairs and upgrades, work performed by outside contractors, Route Finder Plus, Goosetown, they are outside contractors, and we are budgeting for actual for 24-25 was $160,869. For the budget of 25-26, we budgeted $75,000. And year to date, we are already at 104,379, and we propose for the next school year 115,000, which is a change of 40,000. District transportation auto liability, district auto bus insurance, buses, district vehicles, 183 for 24-25, 183,862. The budget of 25-26 will be 202,683. Year to date, we are at 60,000 to 214. 26-27 proposed will be 222,956, and the change would be 20,273. District transportation, umbrella access liability, its insurance, $33,046, and that was in for 24-25. For 25-26, the budget was $202,683. To year of date is up to 60,214. 26-27 year proposed will be 222,956, a change of 20,273. District transportation umbrella access liability insurance, that is 33,046, and for a 25-26 budget, 33,100. Year to date, we are at 35,692. The proposed budget for 26-27 will be 39,261, a change of 6,161. District transportation materials and supplies, miscellaneous materials and supplies for repairs like sheet metal, brakes, drums, wiring, wiper blades, radiators, hoses, belts, etc. 24-25 is 40,697. 25-26 budget is 100,000. Year to date is 8,531. 26-27 is proposed for 100,000, which actually has gone down 5,000. District transportation, gas and diesel fuel. Gas and diesel fuel for the buses, which goes up and down. It's 24-25 was 148,537. 25-26 budget was 262,500. Year to date, we are at 139,620. 26-27 proposed 300,300. This is a $37,800 change. Okay. District transportation for lubrication oil, fluids for the buses. 24-25 actual was $1,000.15. 25 and 26 budget was 16,000. Year to date was 7,500. Our proposed for 26-27 will be 16,000. So there's no change.
Ms. Selma,
yes.
You've done a great job writing down the numbers for us. If you want to pick any of those to highlight that you want us to just be aware of, that'd be perfect.
All right, that'd be great.
You're doing great.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, anything to highlight? Equipment in the bus garage, tire machines, lifts. That's pretty much just another one that we keep. Right now we're at 9,000. We're going to keep it at the same. We don't usually use that many more parts. just depending, heating oil and things, that's changing slightly, but not too much. Let's see here, electricity for garage, insurance, general repair, maybe general repair, bus garage, materials and supplies, or general repair supplies for vehicles, 108,311. 25-26 budget will be 130,000. Year to date, we are at 110,131. 26-27 proposed will be 130,000, and there's zero change on that one. The totals are actual for 24-25 was 828,440. Budget for 25-26. 975,687. Year to date would be, it is now at 624,272 or 17, and 26-27 proposed will be 1,127,858. Changes 152,171. There has been a reallocation of budget costs to help track and minimize transportation budget aid. I would like to take this time to thank the board, faculty, staff, and community during this past year for their continued support of our transportation program.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon. So as Mr. Marini comes to the podium, Lisa, I want to say thank you for a very detailed presentation describing our story of transportation. I always say this, it takes about 5 years to learn your budget in and out. So the amount of detail you put into the budget codes not only is informative to us, but we all know also helps you get to know your budget a little bit, because a lot of your codes have similar things, whether it be supplies for fluids or things such as that. So thank you for helping detail that for us. Thank you. And to help put a roof on our first 3 chapters this evening will be Mr. Merlini to go over the operation and facilities budget. Mr. Merlini, thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I will be presenting the facilities operation and maintenance program for our district. So start out with the mission statement. We have the district's mission statement, and then we add our little O&M mission statement of what we like to do here. So we want to provide services that support the faculty, staff, and students in pursuit of excellence in their individual institutional academic research and community objectives, just to foster everything along, right? Next slide. So a little bit of background of maintenance and operations. I'd like to start out with this just to tell a little bit of a story of what we do here and what my staff does and what we do to bring in outside staff and how we use our money effectively. So the types of maintenance we have are normal and routine maintenance, which includes infrastructure and preventive maintenance, and that's typically performed by the district's maintenance, grounds, and custodial staff. And then we have non-major improvements, remodeling, which includes construction and maintenance, and that's funded by our district's operational budget. And then depending on the type of those investments that we do in construction, that's either going to be performed by our district's maintenance staff or outside contractors. Cleaning maintenance is an activity performed by our custodial staff related to keep the buildings clean and sanitary. Some of the maintenance projects that we completed over this current year, 25-26, in the high school, we continued our efforts to change over the carpet to tile in a couple of classrooms. In Mountain Middle School, we were working on the heating system along with Frankie Lindsay and the heating system there. At BV, we put in a classroom kitchen with some new cabinetry there to support that. And then at BV, we changed out a couple of classrooms or offices with the carpet and going to tile. Furnace Woods classroom upgrades, that includes like painting, sealing tiles, sprucing up those rooms to make them better learning environments. And at Furnace Woods, we also put in a classroom kitchen and new cabinetry. And then we've purchased air conditioning units, primarily for the 3 elementary schools. The middle school is in the bond, is getting some conditioning there. In the high school, we have a lot of portable air conditioners and window air conditioners, and we'll add some there. We purchased a greenhouse for Lumont Middle School. It was delivered part of it today. I think almost all of it's here now. Now the efforts are got to get in. We've got to get some foundation in so we can install that and get that up and running, hopefully in the spring. Landscaping at BV, Frankie Lindsay, Lumont Middle School, and Furnace Woods. We spruced up some outside. Did a lot of renovation with the landscaping. We've done some door replacements, some painting. We instituted a building use program so we can have outside people come in and they can use our facilities for different tasks along with our own staff and faculty that's here. There's still more to come. We're looking at, like I said, with the middle school, high school, we're looking to do some outdoor speakers here that we've already signed a PO with the contractor to get that going. At BV, I just wanted to, we also want to go back to that for a second. We did some offices there. My construction staff built a couple of offices over there. And then with Benita, we did a joint effort to add some TV screens throughout the district. And our electrical staff did the electrical for that. So things that we want to do in the future for our 26-27, we want to continue our efforts changing our carpet to tile in the district. We want to continue our efforts with the heating system, do some small repairs that we can do in-house. At French and Lindsay, the flagpole there is a painted flagpole. I want to replace that with an aluminum flagpole so we don't have to worry about painting it anymore. Continue, like I said, continue with the floor replacement, continue with some roofing repairs and spot repairs here and there, what we can do. I'd like to continue our efforts with the classroom cabinets throughout BV and as well as Furnace Woods. Continue our efforts with landscaping, painting, and ceiling tile replacement. And as always, just trying to spruce up the buildings as much as we can to get them as best for the staff and students. So this slide just goes into a little bit of our building data. As you can see, we have an aging infrastructure. The high school, as you know, we're celebrating the Centennial this year, so it's going to eclipse 100 years. French and Lindsay is the next in line. It's a 70-year-old building. There's been some additions and things that have gone on there, or some upgrades and renovations, but we still need to look at all these buildings because they're getting up in years. So there's a lot of different things, the heating system, the plumbing system, things like that that need to be addressed. We do address some of that, and we all know that we have the bond going on, so there are a lot of infrastructure needs that are going to be taken care of in the bond, but there's still more things to do. Next slide. So some of the drivers that drive my budget, electrical is one of my largest costs. We deal with the New York Power Authority. We have solar at the 5 buildings. Con Edison is also a supplier of electric and gas. And then we see these costs increase. We're anticipating them to increase in this coming year. We're looking at about a 4 to 5% increase overall. Solar, how that helps out is a fixed increase of approximately 2% a year. That's a power purchase agreement. What that does is that stabilizes our electrical costs because our electrical costs with NICA can fluctuate up and down. With the solar, it stays at 2% a year, and so we can kind of like hedge ourselves, and we can kind of like see where it's going to go based on that stabilization. Energy performance contract, the EPC, that's about 100% complete. And the district LED lighting includes the high school competition field, and like I said, that's about 100% complete in construction, and the buildings have about 100% LED lighting. We're going to evaluate the cost savings that we're seeing with the LED over the next year to see how that goes. Because it hasn't been a complete year yet of the LED, we have to see a complete picture of a true school year for that 100%. Like I said, we're talking about solar. The 5 buildings produce solar. Solar power accounts for about 40% of the district needs. We produced about 7,943 megawatt hours since its inception. 3 elementary schools operate primarily on solar. Furnace Woods has the largest array of the 3 elementary schools. And like I said, I want to evaluate the cost savings over the next year. Siemens does that also through the energy performance contract. They have to, by contract, come in and evaluate all our utility bills to see what we're saving, and then they have to guarantee that savings. So the savings pays for the energy performance contracts, and Siemens has to guarantee that, otherwise they have to make the difference where those savings don't get realized. Some of the other drivers, fuel oil, cost per gallon has increased a little bit from last winter. I think it's going to stabilize a little bit, but then it generally jumps up in the fall and then it comes down, so it rockets back and forth a little bit. And like I said, the fuel saving measures we implemented with the energy performance contract, we did some weatherization, building management system, which helps control the temperature inside the building so my custodians can see it, where they need to heat up a section of the building or cool down a section of the building. And we have a bunch of the new equipment that went in that's more cost effective. Propane, we don't use a lot of propane, but where we use propane is in the kitchens and also for the boilers, because we don't have gas in a lot of the buildings, so the pilot lights and everything like that are ran by propane. Natural gas, Con Edison, to date the usage and cost about the same from last year, and I think it's going to rise again in 26.7. So if we go to actually the numbers, where we see a little bit of an increase, plant contractual maintenance, we're jumping up about $25,000 there. We're looking to do a couple more electrical projects throughout the district. Heating oil, like I said, I expect that to jump up a little bit, so there's a cost increase of 13,825. And then if you look at utilities, when you get down to electric, anticipating that to go about 37,500. We have some other numbers in there, but then most are stabilized, and most little cost here and there. Overall, we're looking about a $92,000 increase from budget to budget. And I'd just like to thank all you guys and your continued support and add into my budget and give me the opportunity to do what we do and my staff to do what they do. So thank you very much for everything that you guys have done over the last year. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So I want to say a special word of thanks to Anthony, to Lisa, and to Bo. They are the first ones going for us as a school district. It's always the most difficult to go first, and they represented us so well and demonstrated a thoughtful approach to that we're seeing come from all of our budget code owners and all of our administrative team and our leaders. So thank you for going first. Thank you for setting the tone. I'd ask you to stick around for our board in the event that they have any questions about your specific presentation. So Greg, if you want to move to the next slide, please. And Greg, thank you for all your help getting us through these slides. The Board of Education have any the Board of Education have any questions on the specific content that they saw in our presentations from our presenters. We'll talk about larger budget questions that you may have in a second here, but for right now, are there any questions that came from our three presentations that you want clarified, that you have to ask, anything that you would like to provide?
I don't have a, go ahead, Chloe.
So I have a question about athletics. So this past season, I was the captain of varsity girls field hockey, and we had no subs. And we made it to sectionals with no subs. And I think that one of the big issues of this school is mostly just that we don't focus on field hockey at all. I feel like our girls soccer and our girls lacrosse are like very popular sports. And I feel like I know this year we would be merging with Croton. They don't have a turf at their school. They have grass. And I just know that. And I'm speaking, obviously I'm going off to college and I'll probably join club field hockey, but for a lot of the younger girls, like the sophomores, the juniors who have been playing for multiple years, we really didn't want to see a merge with Croton. I was wondering maybe if for this upcoming season, we could do something to maybe like draw attention, especially with the youth like lacrosse does for field hockey, because it really is a great sport. I got into freshman year after quitting gymnastics, and I feel like it was like an outlook for that, and I feel like a lot of girls don't make varsity soccer, and then maybe we could redirect them to grow our field hockey program. Even if we have to merge with Croton this year, I feel like if we drew more attention to field hockey, we wouldn't have to merge with another school. That's it. That was well done.
So, first of all, I love your question/statement. I really do. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And it comes from passion, right? And that comes from you being so inspired, you're leaving, and you care enough to speak up and say something. Most don't, right? So my hat's off to you. And whoever gets you in college is lucky. Right? We're sorry to lose. I want 10 more of you. Is what I want. Okay. And I do have answers for you. Big answers. When I arrived, which is now, I'm 20 days old. Right. Definition of a varsity coach or JV coach or a freshman coach or modified coach, there isn't one. It's one line. Varsity head coach. That's changing. Period. Right? That's going to change. I've already, I don't like to rule top down. I actually like to take a very much of a bottom up approach, which is why you saw what I did a few weeks ago where I met with all the student athletes, right? After school, before the season began. Because I wanted to hear from all of you before I could do anything, right? And with that, what I'm trying to say to you is there's going to be a definition as to what is required to be a varsity coach. And once you become a varsity coach, JV coach, modified coach, okay, well now as a program, what are we doing? How are we connecting to town of Portland? Right? My second meeting on October 1st at 11 a.m. was with the town of Portland, who informed me the only sport that they don't have, that we do have, was field hockey.
Yeah.
That's going to change. Now, we are, yes, the idea is that we're merging,
Yeah.
right? I don't want us to not have a team. Mergers are 1 year at a time on purpose. It's not like we're signing a contract for 10 years or something. So things change over time, and whoever the varsity coach becomes and gets hired, I also don't like to hire varsity coaches 1 year at a time. So hopefully it's somebody who can be there to build a program, as I'm trying to build athletics. They then become connected to the town. Summer camps, off-season camp, preseason camp, outside field hockey, right? That, as you know, it exists, and that's what it takes. And it might be a 2 to 3 year turnaround, but that's what it takes, right? And yeah, the more self-sustained the programs we can have, absolutely the better. At the same time, we have to be realistic, because we only have so many students. We don't have 2,400 kids in the high school. We have it in the entire district. So that's something to understand. But believe me, it's something that I'm all over, and hopefully that answers some of your questions, right?
Yeah,
Anything else?
No,
with that
thank
one?
you. Yeah, one of the students was honored here today, Nicole. So I know that she's been playing for a lot of years. So when I saw that we were merging, it's hard because even this year I had to scout in order to have a full roster for field hockey. So I know it's going to be hard. Next year there's one senior. So even if we're merging with Croton, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I think as long as now, I mean, I know you also just got here, just to know the issue of I don't think a lot of attention is brought to field hockey, but then still we have a bunch of students who are going with not a lot of attention. So soccer has 4 coaches or whatever, JV modified, and then the town, and it's really just varsity field hockey.
No,
so I think it's good. Thank you.
The other piece that you mentioned before, we're not playing at Croton. We're
gonna play
housing the team,
here.
so we're playing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Allison?
This might actually be a question for both, I don't know, Bo, Anthony, both of you together, maybe one of you. I'm not sure, because one of the things you're talking about is also adding modified coaches, so we can have 2 teams. For example, girls modified soccer now has 2 teams, so everybody plays. It's awesome. It means a lot more feet on those fields at the middle school, both the softball field and both of the soccer fields, one of which we tried to fix and didn't work this year. Is there any thought or intention into the budgeting for the next few years to fix up those fields? Because town of Cortland uses them every weekend. So if they're good one day, the next day they're not. And there's 3 fields between Blue Mountain and Furnace Woods. So it's actually 2 schools using all of those fields, but they need a lot of attention. And I know the fields here at Frank G, down in the lower fields, they get football practice, they get soccer on the weekends, they get soccer practice, both in fields. So is there any thought to, what are we gonna do to make sure that those are not just usable, but that any improvements we can make to them so that those feeder teams, like the town of Cortland, who have the little kids who come to modified, and then those modified players come here at the high school, they've got great fields to play on here, but those lower level fields are kind of, especially by the end of the season, they're really hurting.
Well, it has to be comprehensive approach, right?
Mhm.
Because the only way you're gonna grow grass, which you only grow it in the spring and the fall, is when everybody's on it.
Right.
In the spring and fall.
Right, which we try to do at Blue Mountain.
No
and
programs
Newfield.
on during the summer, no programs on in the winter. So you have to figure out what you want to do, and then you have to ask the town or whoever to stay off the field for the time being, so you can try to grow grass. And it just has to be, you know, like I said, a concerted effort on everybody's part to figure out where you want to go. Over the last 7 years, you know, when we had all the other concerns here, the fields that we have here, we bought a lot of equipment to maintain those fields. So now it's just a matter of getting out on those fields to split seed them, to fertilize them, to get them growing the way we need to. It's not easy. We have a lot of, like I said, our own traffic, because we have PE classes out there, we have recess out there, and then on top of that, we go to town sports, which are, you know, anywhere from, 6 o'clock on.
Oh, yeah, all day.
So it's a lot, it's a lot to do. It's not an easy task. And some of the places that we've done pretty well. The lower field at Frankie Lindsay, we have sprinklers for that. We have a hose reel system or sprinkler type of system that we use on the middle lower field at Frankie Lindsay, which we've had with good success. We've had the turf blankets out there, which we've had with good success. So all those things gotta be used, and we just gotta work at it. It's not easy though.
No, of course not. No. And the field at the middle school, I know, was coming up and then it
Well, that one we had,
Because of water.
it rained this summer.
Yeah.
So even though we hydroseeded, which is probably one of the best approaches that we had to it really couldn't get hold. But now in the fall, when we re-hydroseeded it, actually that was the contractor we didn't pay for it twice. The contractor paid for it once, and he was responsible for getting that seeded and growing. He had better success the second time around because it was cooler in the fall, we had more rain in the fall. I've asked them to stay off it in the spring, and I've asked the town of Portland to stay off it in the spring, to give it like almost like a full, year before we get back on it again. So, the other issue that we deal with that's right over top of our septic system. So there's only so many things we can do with that as well, because we're bound by other regulations and things, so it's kind of like a tricky scenario.
I'll share a small story, right? So I'm being hired. This is like, I don't know, May and June. I come into the district office, and almost all of you were there. And they asked me, you guys asked me to do like a facilities audit, right? And put a video together and pictures and stuff. And I asked the question, is this area a wetland? Can we do anything? And I was like, yes. I was like, so the question becomes like a supply-demand question. We've got all these kids that want to play these sports. How do we not have 40 kids be told they're not making a team, right? 50 kids, 60 kids for soccer, versus then, having to play and now having to manage what part of the field are they playing on today? What part are they playing on next day? What field are we going to leave alone for 2 days because it got wet and nasty? Then we're going to go to another field and shake. That's what happens.
Yep.
Right, so it's a juggling act.
Erica?
So I'm going to piggyback off of Chloe just a little bit and just think about this in a little bit of a different way. So, because I've had a kid on the cutting side of soccer, right? So when you get, we have these 2 boy teams, 2 girl teams in modified level now.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a good thing. I have my own personal parent mixed feelings about that. What are we doing to encourage those kids once they get to high school, because not all 40 of them are going to play on the JV level, encouraging them to pick a different sport. When they were in, we have a big group of kids right now on JV that are middle schoolers on the JV cheerleading team, right? We have so many opportunities for them, but we also know that our football team is a little smaller. So adding a team
at the younger ages,
at the younger ages
right.
to keep them involved
right.
could have a long-term negative impact if we're not promoting them. They want to be athletes, we want them to be athletes, we want them to participate, but there's other sports available. So I mean, I can tell you that when my son was cut from soccer,
Yeah.
he joined the cross-country team, and it inspired in something in him where
Yeah.
he ran track all 3 seasons
You
from
told me.
7th grade up through, his senior year until he got injured. But, there's other pathways for the kids, but I don't know if we promote them enough.
Yeah.
So adding a team, just because we don't want kids to feel like they got cut, make it more inclusive for them, isn't gonna help them the next year,
Yeah.
right?
It's a great question, so, and I'll share with you. So there's options. And it is about communication. At the heart of it's about communication. It isn't about hoping they don't feel bad and therefore giving them a spot. Is there real demand, right? And that's also coming from how robust Town of Portland's youth soccer program is. And Deanna Peterson and all the efforts that they put in there, that's where that's coming from, right? I went to those games, the modified games, you see backpack upon backpack upon backpack of Town of Portland soccer, right? Some of them are like Mayo Pack soccer, great. Having said that, I do think Mr. Cassidy, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Eisman, the middle school phys ed health teachers, combined with the Ms. Berlini, Mr. Fredman, right, Mr. Solomon, do a very good job of, it's preseason, August 19th. Yes, they're coming out to try out for JV and varsity and whatever soccer, the sport will pick right now. Hey, listen, this isn't happening, it's day 3, it's day 4, great. We don't just kind of like let them disappear, right? Marcia track and field is right there, cross country, right? Probably something like that happened with your son. Football, Cole Coyle, he's right there.
That's here. I'm talking about I understand that, but the modified level. So historically here, I'm glad this is the direction that you're moving, but historically here, that hasn't necessarily been what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay, especially at the modified level. So this is not a budget conversation. This is a much bigger conversation, but it's tied to budgets if we keep adding coaches for this purpose, right?
Yeah.
When we have other teams for children to go on.
Yeah.
And our Town of Cortland travel soccer teams are limited. It's really more of we have a town soccer program. That those kids are not necessarily on travel because they can't be on both teams, right? My son was on the travel soccer team, okay?
You can on travel modified.
No, but you can't be on travel and town soccer. You can't be on both.
No, yes, that's different.
Right.
Yes.
So, it's just a different way to think. We add a team to solve a problem, but it doesn't actually solve a long-term problem.
No, I know. What I'm trying to say to you is the options are going to be these, right? So you have 2 modified teams on any given sport. At the high school level, we have freshman basketball, and then JV basketball, and then varsity basketball. Some schools, and there are leagues within Section 1, JVA and JVB,
right,
down the line if and when that happens. If that happens, right? Which is again simply supplying the demand of what our student body is asking for, right? If there was a demand for 50 kids that are playing field hockey, we would supply it, right? We would help it. The students that hypothetically don't get picked, we offer 5, 6 other sports at modified level. They know about it. They know about it through the phys ed teachers. They know about it through the messaging and through Parent Square and the sign-ups. Our sign-up for next season is going out February 9th.
Right.
That's how they find out. Can that be better? I'm sure it can. I'm sure it can, right? Does that help?
Yes, I'm just thinking,
Answer that?
like, I just, from the budget perspective, like, just add a team when you have, I'm thinking about it from a budget perspective, just adding teams and what the cost of that is, to double that up when we have other spaces for them. So you did answer my question. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions based on the presentation? So Bo, I wanted to say thank you for your presentation. I really loved that you also included a lot on the phys ed and the health aspect, because I feel like sometimes we get so wrapped up when we hear athletics, we only think of the sports programs. So I wanted to thank you for that, and you do have a lot to look at as you're moving forward, because a lot of us do feel, as you can see, passionately about the sports as well. So thank you for being here and your enthusiasm, and we're looking forward to great things. Lisa, I wanted to say thank you to you. I was really touched when you were speaking about what our custodial drivers mean to this district, and I can just think of my own son, and he used to draw his bus driver a picture every day, and then it was him on the bus, and then him riding the machine to clean. Like he was obsessed with him. So yes, they do know our community, and they are invaluable. So thank you. And then Anthony, I know you've been here for a while, and this last year, I just want to say a huge thank you for listening to us on the facilities and opening day this year. I thought was one of the best that we've had in terms of the looks of our outside buildings, making students feel excited about seeing their school. So thank you for that, and we look forward to everything as we move forward.
Thanks, guys.
So to piggyback on President Silverman's words, thank you, Ms. Salma, Mr. Merlini, Mr. Morkey, for, again, leading us off for this. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of this evening's presentation. I will say it sounds as if, Mr. Morkey, you and I should probably regroup on perhaps an update after you get a little bit more of the lay of the land as you're here. We can field some questions from the Board of Education on matters that you might like to have updated in a public session, and we'll work to put that together so that the board has some answers to those questions.
Can I ask one? I don't know if it's my place or whatever, but Chloe, can answer your question? I think Chrome just put in an artificial field this summer. So in September, I think they just want to open it. That doesn't answer your concern, and I understand your concern and how you want to make it and how you feel hockey here with your peers and all your friends. But yeah, so at least they have a turf.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you again, Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Greg, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, unless you already have while I'm multitasking here. Okay, I just lost where I was.
He's just writing a to-do list.
Yes. I apologize, I just closed it. Good night, thank you. I'm not on my update yet. Okay. So we want to continue telling the story. You just heard from on 3 of our chapters here, athletics, transportation, and our operations and maintenance. And as soon as I get to my page of the story, I'd like to spend some time describing the setting of our story and how that provides the framework for our budget development. What we discussed at the 3rd of December presentation was that we didn't know a lot of the variables at that time. At this stage of the budget development, we are starting to know some of those variables, and they will continue to change. 4 hours ago, I just saw in my email that we received our initial state aid runs. We did not have that when we put together this presentation. I didn't look at it in detail, and I'm hoping if there was anything groundbreaking, Jill would be telling me to adjust what we're going to do, but I didn't see anything groundbreaking. And we'll come back to that.
Don't love it.
Okay. But again, that's just the first state aid runs. Those are going to come out a number of times, and we will continue to update because that is based upon the governor's proposed executive budget. So we will continue to have these variables change. But tonight, I hope to give us a starting point towards our end goal of a balanced budget that meets our educational needs while remaining fiscally responsible and aligning to our current budget parameters. In this stage of the current budget development, the budget is still what we term the superintendent's budget. Meaning that with my team, we are building out what we recommend to that best approach to seeking a balance between a high-quality educational program that is responsive to both short-term and long-term financial frameworks. And so we're going to look at these next pieces of the setting over the next few minutes that we have together. So if we go to the next one, we're going to talk about the first piece of that story setting, the date requested budget amount. So when we look backwards in the story, the prequel, last year's adopted budget for 25-26 was $9,232,500. That budget was built, as you can see there, using a total of $4.4 million in reserve to offset the amount of tax dollars we asked from our community in the tax levy. To date, a variable that we know and that we formulated is our 26-27 proposed budget is $102,704,618. I don't have the cents for you, I'm sorry. That figure includes all of the requests from buildings, departments, and programs you will hear over the next couple of weeks, such as those that you just heard this evening. And if you're wondering, well, how do we know that? Well, because we know the ending to part of some of the chapters here. We've been building this with our programs, our buildings, and our departments since December. So we've received their requests. And this is the budget figure that we have that includes all of their requests. If we go to the next component of our setting is the New York State tax cap, excuse me. Under New York State tax cap property law, the levy is capped at an annual increase of no more than 2%, or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower, with some certain exclusions. A school district may override that tax cap only with voter approval of a budget that receives at least 60% supermajority in favor of that budget. I want to take a brief moment to discuss what factors are calculated into that tax cap. So it's a prescribed formula. Jill will display, Ms. Figueroa will take us through her calculation thus far given the current variables. But in general terms, many of the non-discretionary or many of the discretionary factors are calculated in this measure. You have to look at the prior year tax levy, the base from which the new levy limit is calculated. You look at the inflation factor, which is capped at 2%, and this is set by the New York State Comptroller. You look at the quantity change in your tax base growth factor. That is reflects growth in any taxable property within the district. Now, I said there are some exclusions that we can keep from this. This includes voter-approved capital expenditures and the associated payment towards any debt of those projects. You can also exclude some certain pension contributions above thresholds that are set by law. You also can exclude any court-ordered judgments or settlements, as well as payment in lieu of tax adjustments. So these factors determine the district's maximum allowable tax levy increase before requiring a supermajority vote. If we go to the next slide, another variable that we are going to look at, a component of our setting, is the use of the reserve. So New York State reserve funds are legally established accounts used to plan for known or anticipated future costs, stabilize finances, or mitigate the impact of revenue fluctuations while maintaining transparency and a board's fiscal responsibility. The purpose, in terms of purpose and use of reserves, reserves can only be used for their legally authorized purposes, and many of them must be established by the Board of Education through official board action. These boards help districts with one-time or cyclical costs, reduce the reliance on sudden tax increases, and respond to fiscal uncertainty such as changes in state aid, changes in economic situations, and enrollment changes. It is recommended, and this is from the New York State's Comptroller Office, that the use of reserves should support long-term financial planning and avoid structural deficits. In particular, we in Hendrick Hudson have a tax mitigation reserve fund. This is specifically intended to offset increases in property taxes in the years surrounding the shutdown from the Indian Plant Energy Point Center. The funds from that reserve can be applied to the budget to reduce the amount of taxes that must be raised, helping us remain within the New York State tax cap or soften the tax cap impact on taxpayers. This reserve is most appropriately used for temporary revenue shortfalls or transitional periods, such as the shutdown of the Indian Point, not for ongoing operational expenses. And the use of this reserve is recommended by the comptroller by a clear plan as it represents a one-time resource and does not solve underlying structural transitions that the district must make. So talking a little bit about reserves in general, let's take a look on the next slide about some of Hendrick Hudson's reserves itself. Well, before we get to the specific reserves, I want to go backwards into another story. If you were viewing the board meeting or if you were at the board meeting on December 20th, 2023, you heard a report from an external auditor named Don Hoffman who provided a baseline of where the district should begin to look as it prepares for the financial impact of the shutdown of the Indian Point Energy Center. I've linked that presentation in this presentation, and I'm going to focus specifically on slide 7 and some of his speaking notes associated with that. He had mentioned that based upon his findings, that the district should establish a number of other reserves in addition to the reserves that were already being used. The only reserves that the district had at that time in December of '23 were the reserves listed there: repair reserve, an unassigned fund encumbrance, an unassigned account for encumbrances, an unassigned account for the subsequent year's budget, and then the unassigned fund balance. His main feedback as we plan to utilize was to establish a number of different reserves. Now, fast forward to today, if you go to the next slide. This current slide lists all of our current, this slide that we have here lists all of our current reserves as established. So thanks to members who are sitting on this board and previous boards, you took, these boards of education took Don Hoffman's advice and put it into action. You can see here, we have, namely, a capital reserve. No money in there yet, but we'll talk about that. A capital reserve. You have the employee retirement contribution reserve. If you look at his specific report, he specifically said to establish a number of those reserves. That includes the employee retirement contribution reserve, the teacher retirement contribution reserve, my favorite acronym in all of education, the EBLAR reserve, or the employee benefit and accrued liabilities reserve, and of course our energy tax system stabilization reserve on the next two lines, which is our current, reflects current usage and planned usage. And then you can see the assigned reserve for outstanding fund purchase orders and fund balance. I want to show that and think of these reserves in general, because the tax mitigation reserve that many of us zero in on is only one reserve out of a larger amount of reserves that we have established. So if you go to the next slide. Another component of our story setting is expenditures and reduction. So for our district, making programmatic cuts can be fiscally responsible even when the budget is technically balanced, when we're in the tax cap, or when our revenues equal our expenses, particularly within the constraints of our tax cap and long-term financial expectations or planning expectations we have. A balanced budget is achieved through the use of reserves does not by itself signal structural sustainability. Reserve funds, especially our tax mitigation and EBLAR reserves, are finite reserves used for specific purposes. Relying on them without adjusting expenditures can mask underlying cost pressures such as contractual salary growth, benefits litigate inflation, and enrollment shifts. I'm suggesting, and you'll see in a few slides here, that we implement thoughtful programmatic reductions even in a balanced year, because this ensures reoccurring expenditures are aligned with reoccurring revenues and reduces the risk of larger, more disruptive cuts in future budget cycles. If we want to go on to the next slide. So I took the great discussion that happened at our December 3rd board meeting and worked with our cabinet, took a look at some of what was discussed there, and I came up with the following parameters that we built this current year budget around and will continue to build this current budget year around. They will guide our approach in the fine-tuning of our budget as we move towards the adoption of a 26-27 budget. We will review these parameters at each board meeting as we hear from our department, building, and program heads to make sure that they still fit the board's desires as we build the budget. And then the next slide we have is my recommendation. Taking a look at all the setting, all the variables that we just discussed, this is my current recommendation as we stand right now with the variables that we know. If you notice, I recommend to continue with a spending plan that reflects all of our buildings, departments, and programs wish list items that they presented to us in their budget development. That amount would remain a 2.82 tax levy increase from the 25-26 school year, and it would remain within our tax cap statutory allowable limit for next year. This would be utilizing $4.4 million from reserves, specifically the tax mitigation reserve, in addition to last year's amount of reserves that we used, for a total between last year and this year from that tax mitigation reserve amount of $9.3 million to offset the levy. Now, I just said a lot. And I'm sure there's some questions around that. But we love rhetorical questions in our administrative team meetings. And we spent some time talking about some of these rhetorical questions. So spend some time anticipating what some questions about those recommendations might be before we move on to the board Q&A. So one of the questions that comes to mind would be, why is the district recommending the use of reserves? And the bottom line is, our reserves, even if we were in a financial situation that did not have the shutdown of Indian Point, reserves are used by school districts to balance out the amount of tax levy you have to ask from your community. Looking in conjunction with reductions in spending, these are all ways that you can limit the amount of money you are asking on a New Year's levy from the tax base. We are fortunate enough to have the tax mitigation fund to avoid a large increase in our taxes. That's what it was meant to do. It was meant to soften the blow. And each year the plan, even as described by Don Hoffman, was to go through these next couple of years as we adjust from the shutdown of Indian Point and increase the levy to the statutory amount without going over and using appropriate amounts of reserves each year to make sure that you soften the blow and it's not this huge financial crunch. Manage it in a way that we are using fund balance and a gentle raise in our levy over the years to make sure that there's not one year with a big hike asked about out of our taxpayers. Question that might come up is, will we have reserves in 2030 if we continue to spend at this amount? And I want to go back to, Greg, if you could, to the slide where we listed our reserves. The answer would be yes, because we have more reserves than just our tax stabilization reserve. And I want to remind everyone that we did not have this many reserves when we started this conversation. So the board, the current board and previous boards have done a wonderful job of making sure that we have enough reserves outside of that fund just meant to offset the loss of Indian Point and mitigate the tax increases that may need to be assumed by the school, by our community. At the same time, it's important to note, in that presentation, Don Hoffman shared how much he suggested a district have of a percentage of its total budget in year to year. His suggestion was 10% of your overall operating budget. We projected out here to 2027. If we consider that we'll have approximately $105 million budget, we'd be close to that amount if we, as we used up the tax mitigation fund. So just something to keep in mind from that presentation as well too. Thank you, Greg. If you go back to the administrative explanations of those recommendations. Is the district considering any other measures to be financially responsible? Yes. When we talk about this, if you were to walk away with the suggestions that I gave you right there and you were to say, hey, we're happy with everything, I would still likely come back to you and say, we need to take a look at some things that we can cut on the expenditure side to make us financially prepared for the next school year or for future school years. Because if there's things that we are doing that we don't need to be doing, that will always have an impact on students, and you could argue that anyway. But if we know that we're eventually going to need to we're going to need to find efficiency some way, and we can make them this year, we will still recommend those to you. Will we ever have to suggest a tax cap, aka pierce the cap? What we are seeing is, if you look at states such as the two states that have the longest enacted property tax threshold or tax cap are Massachusetts and California. And what they saw is, after 10 years, they saw an increasing number of school districts having to go to pierce the cap. The main purpose of the tax cap being implemented, if you remember back there, was to reduce school district reserves. This was the setting in 2010 when it was passed. There was a sentiment that these school districts were asking for more and more in tax dollars each year from their constituents, yet they were sitting on large reserves. The tax cap, in essence, forces school districts to utilize those reserves to help balance any budget year to year, because you're not going to be able to sustain what your students need, what your district needs to run, without the use of reserves. So just reflecting on that, there will more than likely be a time when districts pierce the cap. What we are seeing is in 2023-24, there was one school district that attempted in Westchester to override the cap. That was voted down. In 24-25, there were 3 districts that accomplished the tax cap override. That was Harrison, Scarsdale, and Rye. And in 25-26, 2 school districts approved the tax cap override, New Rochelle and Mamaroneck. So we are seeing more and more school districts do that. And we, as regional superintendents, we talk about what are you thinking, what are you doing, and to a district, they make the decision to override the tax cap when they absolutely have to, when they don't have the use of reserves, when they have a major hit of a fund that, or of an expenditure that could be coming. So do we foresee the opportunity where we would need to do a tax cap override? The answer is probably yes. However, we want to make sure we hold that as their ace in the hole. If there's a we don't know the state of the economy where there could be a large financial downturn. We feel that with this suggested budget, we can provide the absolute, a high quality educational environment for our students, use an appropriate amount of reserves, and also make sure that we are using those reserves in an appropriate way. So, anything from my team that I missed that you want me to highlight on? Okay. At this time, I've said a lot. What I'd like to do is I've suggested the following. Greg, would you go back to what I suggested? I'd like to solicit from the Board of Education some initial thoughts on the priorities, parameters, and recommendations that I just made, in particular the allowable tax cap and levy amount, the use of reserve funds to reduce costs and offset levy, and do we wish to adjust the current parameters? So I'll turn it over to you, Jeff. You're passing it, no, me. Like end.
No, I'm sorry. I was just being cognizant of the time and understanding Chloe as a student. Anybody have any questions or comments for the team? I have a couple of quick questions, right? You're using 9.3 million, right? So that's from the fund balance itself. And we're currently at 26,712, right? 26.7 million at the end of June 2026 based on the numbers that you had before.
Best for you.
Right.
Thank you.
That's anticipated at the end of this year.
So let's just say we're using 9.3 this year. 2028 to 29, we have to use 9.3 again, correct?
It's more than likely, it depends on how the expenditures play out at the end of the school year and how the revenues play out, or state aid, et cetera, right? So, and the remaining funds that are left over.
Okay. 2029 to 2030, another 9.3. That's 27.9. Our entire fund is gone, right? Now I fast
Could
forward.
be if that's the trend.
That's the trend, right? Now I go to the cessation fund. It's reduced every year, $2 million until 2030, right? So this year we have 6.1. The next year, let's just assume it's 4.1, and the next year is 2.1 million. If we don't even have money in the reserves left after doing this at 9.3 each year, we haven't even addressed making up the cessation fund, right? And we also have to think about after 2030, the cessation fund is completely gone. So that's another $2.1 million come 2031 that we're going to have to make up. That's not even accounted for here yet.
In our budget, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to clarify. In our budget, we do account for the reduction in revenue. So that $102 million, that reduction in the cessation fund is counted in our revenue and expenses. So it's
For this year.
For this year,
Yeah.
correct.
So what I'm saying is going forward.
So we don't have to use additional reserves to pay for it this year.
Right, but what I'm saying is if I just do the math on 27 to 30, right, 2027 to 2030, we're at 27.9 just for those years to get us there. And our current fund is 26.7. So my question is, anything happens, we have $0 left and zero cushion anywhere else. And I guess my question is going to be to the team is, and I'm only gonna speak for myself, I'm not speaking for the board. I think that a discussion needs to be had about us going over the tax cap to ensure that people have a soft landing over time, right? Because right now, this seems like we're just avoiding the inevitable of what is gonna have to be done. And I think if you say to everybody, if you pay an extra $500 this year and an extra $700 next year and an extra $900 the following year in 2030, when you get to 2031, it'll probably be the same. As opposed to saying after those numbers, maybe you're paying $2,000 in 2031, right? So in my mind, I think we have been very financially responsible in what we've been doing, but I think I need to see from the administration is just a synopsis or a spreadsheet that shows me what it looks like if we gradually do the increase and gradually go over, as opposed to just saying we're using all of our money and leaving us with absolutely nothing.
We'd be happy to put that together. When we talk about gradually using the increase and going, so we wouldn't know what next year's tax cap would be. We would know what this year's, in around that way, in this year's tax cap. We'd have to use 2% as an estimate for that. And we don't know if 2% is going to be our actual tax cap. Is that?
Do we have projections?
We
do have some, but we don't have them. I mean, all this information now has to be updated because the state aid just came out too, so.
Well, in particular, once we get your guidance from the table here, we'd be happy to start running those projections based on that, those new solidified variables that we have.
To kind of piggyback on what Tamika is saying, I think what going forward is important to see it's important to see what going forward looks like, but it's also important to see like what if then scenarios. So if this is what you're recommending a certain route to us, right? Using X amount of reserves because our tax cap levy is approximately 2.8%. What does that look like if we pierce the cap up by 2% or 4%? I think to give us an idea of what the number could look like, and then also with that, giving us an approximate line under that, showing where our reserves will land, could land. We all know that this is not an exact science. We are really well aware of that, and we respect that completely, I think. Not that I want to speak for everyone, but I think we really fully understand that. We're in a really tough position, just like all of you, to make sure that we are fiscally responsible to our community. And that, unfortunately, takes a lot of time to prepare so that we have a full understanding of what we're putting forward to asking our community and what is feasible. We always wanted to stay as close to the tax cap or even below the tax cap. I think we've done that for many years at this point, even with the $25 million shortfall. So, but everyone knows we have a $25 million shortfall. So I think we have to see the what if then. Because I think that will get, if we see that and the community sees that, to see how fiscally responsible we're trying to be, I think and also thinking of the support that our community has given us over the years with the understanding of where we are as a district. Like, I'm not comfortable right now saying to you, oh, we have to go over the tax cap right now, but I need to see a few more different scenarios, and then I would be more comfortable making a recommendation one way or the other.
Understood, yes. And two things to that. So we want to put together some projections once we solidify on where some of these variables are, but then also what it would look like for a tax cap of 2% or 4%. Is there a starting point on override? Because you could theoretically override the tax cap at 2.83%.
Yeah, I know. We have
right?
to give you a number. I don't know, Tamika, do you have a number that you're comfortable with, just to see?
I think you have to
give you an
see
idea?
what it does to the whole chart.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like, I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna butt in a little bit. So this can all be done, as Mr. Trombley said. The variables that have to be assumed are most of the, variables that are in the revenue side of the equation. So, those are going to be assumed at what they are right now, because there is really no, like for state aid, for interest earnings. So those things are so volatile and can change, dramatically one way or the other. So the only assumption we can make is where they are right now. We can't really say, they're bound to go up or they're bound to go down. Really don't have that crystal ball to be able to tell you that. I can add money to the tax cap and say, this is what your tax levy, this is what your tax rate will look like probably if all the assessments stay the same, if the equalization rate stays the same. It's a lot of assumptions, and I know that's all you really have to go on. But I have to have a starting point as to, are you thinking, how much are you looking to put towards the savings? That's how much I would need to add to the tax cap to tell you what that estimated rate would be.
I hear you. I don't actually think that's the question. I think the question is, last year, what was our tax cap last year?
4.56.
What does that look like?
As far as the tax rate goes, the change in the tax rate, or the?
No, expecting the community to support that again.
To understand, like, we had to use this much of our reserves last year, 4.56.
How much would the fund balance?
And then, yes.
Right.
So there's a little bit more left in there. Is it using the same amount of reserves? Is it cutting programs?
Whatever we did last year, looking at it, you have to have something that, I don't think it's fair for us to sit here and say, well, we want you to use no more than 6 million of reserves. What does that look like? I think because we have no idea what that really looks like long term. I think it's more of, our tax cap this year is very low. It's lower than it's been, right? So
Right.
I think we have to say that out loud.
And I want to piggyback off that, because I feel like a lot of times we say the word tax cap and we either want to stay under it or go above it. And I feel like people hear that and they're like, oh, of course we want to stay under it. But if you compare last year to this year, the tax cap is
Way lower.
It's way lower. So if we were to say we want to pierce it, it would be similar to what we did last year. And I think the community needs to understand that. And I know I'm jumping ahead. In 2 slides, you show what that impact would look like on a $500,000 assessed household at 2.82. I think if we again show that, if we move forward, what that could look like if we were to go to a similar to this year, 4.5 or a 6, but for the community. I don't know if that's,
We'll put that in our next presentation.
we have that.
No, I don't.
That's not it.
No, so I'm saying, I think the community needs to know what that looks like, or 2. From there, that shows what, it sounds like a big scary
So that
number.
chart shows what an estimated tax rate increase would be at the 2.82% tax levy.
And I think when we mention these numbers, it sounds like a big scary number. Not that $212 is, again, at a $500,000 assessed house, give or take approximately $212 for the year as an increase.
Right, so you can
doesn't
kind of
sound
get an
as
idea.
scary.
You can kind of get an idea by looking at that if you're going
Yes.
up 2.82%, you're looking at a $212 increase annually for Cortland residents, right?
Yes.
So if you doubled that, this is.
I know, I want to make sure the
basically
community
what you can.
hears what that looks like and what kind of impact that would have on their household if we were to do that. Because when we say piercing the tax cap, I think that just sounds scary to our community. But what does that mean in numbers? Again, I say all the time, I'm a visual person.
But piercing the tax cap doesn't just mean going over the tax levy. It also means when the vote time comes, when the time comes for the taxpayers to come out and vote, that the school district has to obtain a 60% majority vote.
But that's what I'm saying, we could potentially
important.
get that by not just saying we're piercing the tax cap, but showing them what that looks, having them understand, yes. Having them see like the dollar amount.
It's the same money we asked for last year.
Right, yes.
I just wanted to say, one thing I think we need to say out loud is that we also pay some of the lowest taxes in Westchester, right? So in order for us, even with Indian Point leaving, right, we've managed to survive, but the time for survival is kind of come to its end, right? And now we as a board, I feel, have to act in a responsible way to ensure that we go past once the cessation and everything else goes away. My suggestion would be, last year it was 3.5 that we used. out of the fund balance.
It's a little bit more.
Yeah, we
Or a
might
little
end
bit
up
more.
around 3.5 at the end of this year.
I would recommend if we can try to go use 6.6 million, and then we see where we land there, where the tax cap goes.
And the reason that you're saying this is because, I'm just reiterating for all of us, is you want to see those funds extend out further while we continue to build financial
Correct.
stability.
It'll get us to 2031, and it'll probably even allow us to use a little bit less and still have a little bit of cushion so that we're not completely depleting it at the end of every year. So that's my thought process.
Mr. Trombley, you had also mentioned strategic cuts to make to balance the budget in a more sustainable way. When do we get to see those ideas so we know if we're going to be able to reduce any of these numbers? Because that will also help us in this conversation about how high do we go, how much do we pierce? Are we above 2? Do we go to 4? Do we? I think if we had, because I think that could be significant to, especially since we're now getting state aid numbers that don't sound like they're going to be as helpful as we hope.
So,
I mean, we might, I don't want to cut anything, I'm just saying that out loud, but if it comes to it, that's going to factor in really, really big on these minute, detailed numbers that we're talking about now. So I kind of feel like I can't even really make a determination about that until I see what would be cut and how that would affect the budget, and then sustainably, what would that affect the budget going forward to what we're talking about, 2030, right? Would it reduce that line?
What it would look like is once we have a clear direction on, because a budget is revenue and expenses, and there's only so many ways if we need to get to a number which is lower than what we're looking at. You can either increase revenue, it's pretty hard to do in a school district, bake sales, don't make that up, or you apply more fund balance, you raise taxes, or you can cut expenditures, right? So once we have a clear direction of where some of those other variables are going, last year when we had to look at, once we were clear on the direction of the use of fund balance that we were going to use and what our tax cap was going to be and what we were comfortable with there, we said, okay, we need to make some of these tweaks. As an example, one of them was a discussion on the number of teaching assistants we had in the district. And the discussion came out, and then we had that discussion, and there was some feedback given that perhaps there's something else we can do, and we suggested, okay, we need to get to this number. We're going to, and rather than reduce it in this area of the program, it's my recommendation to reduce the number of permanent subs we have in the building. That's how that would look like. So sharing a menu of everything out there is not going to happen. It's not appropriate. It just causes anxiety, and it's not the way you run a school district. We're going to take a look at within our parameters. We're also going to take a look at where we need to be, and we'll offer suggestions, and we're open to feedback on how that looks. But a whole menu of items is not going to be presented.
No, I don't think that was her question. I think that Allison's just wondering, like, if there are cuts that need to happen, and there's like a few different things that might happen, when are we going to go over that?
Yeah, once we have a better understanding of what amount of fund balance we need to use, where we are with the tax cap, we're extremely far ahead in terms of a budget timeline, and I thank the board for that, of having this conversation right now, because this gives us direction as we're going into the spring. So once we cohese around some clearer numbers, particularly on the use of fund balance and on the tax cap, we can definitely bring those to the table. So if I'm hearing correctly, one of the things to bring back to our next meeting would be to, let's start off by showing a proposed tax levy increase at last year's tax levy.
Give or take, yeah.
I think either way, though, we still need to find efficiencies, even if.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so then I didn't understand the last thing that we were just talking about.
Well, we wouldn't know.
He's trying to find efficiencies.
So we have
to
a.
know kind of what number to hit with, you know, there are levels of efficiencies that
I think what he's saying is he's not gonna publicly say we're getting rid of the art program at this table. We are not.
That's gonna be edited
But I
on
think that's what
YouTube.
that's what he's saying, is that they're not gonna,
Sorry.
she said she's getting rid of math. I think that's what we're saying, is I think what he was saying is we're not going to state that specifically. He's not gonna get specific there, but.
I mean, are you guys comfortable with the $6.6 million starting point from the fund balance? I think we have to start there.
Yeah,
Right.
I also would just like to see what it looked like, if you do
Right,
what
so
last year
let's,
looked like.
so in order to give them a better direction as to where to start, right, you guys need a starting point. If everybody at the table is comfortable with saying 6.6 is the amount we're all comfortable with to review in the fund balance being used next year, then they can go back and Jill can do magic numbers with the spreadsheet and show us what it looks like. I think what is critical, and we asked for this in finance, is just the way you outline the below of like what the dollar amount is really lets people see it instead of just spitting numbers out to people. You can say that's $200, that's $300, right? I think this little summary below is great because if we know what last year's was and what it could look like for the other ones when we do it, it'll be easier to kind of talk people through.
So
as well.
last year, yeah, what do you mean when you know what last year? Because last year's on there. So
Yeah, you do, yep.
Yep, all right. So what we're hearing right now, and just to summarize a little bit, is a 6.6 use of fund balance.
Total use
Just to
or
get an
just last
idea
year?
of what that is.
Current year, in addition to last year?
Instead of 9.3.
No, she's saying instead of the 9.3, which right there and then, we're talking about cuts, because that's a difference
So
of
is
$3 million.
Is $7 million a better number
2.7.
to start?
What's that?
Is $7 million a better number to start?
Well, no, I'm just saying, so where you're gonna see the difference is in cuts, because we've balanced everything, and except we haven't added in the actual aid that we know we're getting yet, so.
But I don't think we were saying cuts, we were saying,
No,
can
go
we see what
up.
the tax levy would look like?
So you're saying
doing
if we
that?
go over
I'm
the
not
cap
saying
by
cut.
that,
We-
okay,
So
correct,
we use
okay.
the 6.6, and what does that look like for percentage, and then what does that look like for our example?
Okay, so not changing the budget, the appropriations, but
No,
rather.
I'm just
going over.
Yeah, I'm saying, show us what it looks like going over the tax cap.
Okay.
And if we can also just have the examples, Jill, on the bottom, like you did here.
Yeah,
I think that would
absolutely,
be-
no, I'll redo that so we have those examples. I'll do a few different iterations.
So just to confirm here, we will be using last year's levy increase amount, the
No.
4.56?
No.
Agnes?
I think what, I believe what you're asking for is if we were to have a $6.5 to $7 million use of fund balance, but get there by going over the cap rather than
So back
staying under the
into
cap.
it using the fund balance without cutting programs.
Right.
And
To
without-
stay under,
What would
we
that
would have to
percentage
cover
look like?
it.
And I don't know how much work this would be for you. If that number is wildly different than the 4.56 that we used last year, could we see what the 4.56 would be and what that would be as the amount of fund balance
Sure.
needed? Thank
Yep,
you.
I understand.
And if it's like, if it's give or take within that ballpark
To
area.
have that same increase.
But if the tax
what kind
increase-
of, what kind of fund balance would we need
So if the
to
tax
use?
increase when you're doing that is up to like onwards of like 7%, could we also then see what if it was same as this year, and what would that look like for fund balance?
Sure. Thank you.
And then, Alexis, to answer your question, we would still come to you because to be financially responsible going into years that we don't know, there are operational and programmatic items that we would still look at to remain fiscally responsible so that we are not having to make up year after year if there's something that we do feel can be assumed by the district this year.
Got it. Anybody have any?
I just have a question. Would part of that plan, in terms of preparation, right, with those numbers, if there was a tax cap override budget that failed, should we also be preparing for the contingency piece of that in terms of cuts?
No, we would go to cap, wouldn't we?
No, I'm saying in terms of preparing, if we had a failure of the tax cap, should we, as a team, be preparing what cuts would look like?
I think we should.
If we went to a
I think we
contingency
should be
budget.
prepared, right? We should have all options.
Would we have to go to contingency? If the budget failed, then wouldn't you just go to 2.8%?
No, you
No,
would
it
not.
goes back to, it goes back to the contingency.
Wait,
No, but we could
no,
back up for a
no.
revote.
You go out once and then you can
You could
revote. You
revote,
would
so-
just
and we
go to
could-
cap.
Yeah.
Correct. So what
Right.
what I did not say, and I should have on my previous slide, was why am I recommending what I recommended? Well, one of those concerns is that if we do not pass a supermajority, you have a couple options. You can put up the same budget and revote. You can adopt a contingency budget immediately, or you can put up a revised budget. I think it would be one of the things that I know would be detrimental would be if there is not, and as a superintendent, this is my recommendation, it's currently still my budget to help inform. My recommendation is built upon the fact that what would be detrimental to everything we see there is everything that we see in our projections, everything we see in our use of fund balance would be a contingent budget, because that would mean when we go back to the setting of the looking at our story, that would mean it's a change across all aspects of our story. It's a change to our protagonist, it's a change to the high quality education program, it's a change to...
You need to prepare whatever budget you and the board wants to go with, and then your backup budget is a cap. I mean, I don't think you're gonna end up in a contingent budget.
But I also think we need to educate our public as to what it is, like what these numbers look like. So I know that it's scary, and we can't think about just this year. And for all of us that are on the board, obviously we are community members. We want to remain community members. So if we are going to say, let's not explore that option, I would like then also to, and even if not, I would like to educate the public. If we were to stay at this tax cap of 2.82, I know it's a lot of the what if games, but what would it look like then for an increase in 2030, 2031? Because then would community members who are going to be like, well, I can live here this year because I can afford the 2.82, but then when we get to 2031, and that's a big, huge increase, right? Like we need to educate our public and not just scare the public and saying we're going to go over, but educate them as to if you are planning now for your future, you're going to be in a better spot than we keep kicking that can down the road and 2031 hits us and now we can't.
So our goal will continue to be not to kick the can down the road, but to balance appropriately the use of fund balance, the use of tax levy, because the school district has been doing a great thing. We've been going to the maximum allowable amount. That is a recommended approach to allowing for this soft landing with use of fund balance to not have that big spike while maintaining a passable limit. So yes, we
And that's been our plan, right? So that's fine. I just want to reiterate something, and we probably should get these numbers together as, like what Amelia is saying, to sell it to our community. What percentage of our community came and voted yes to a 4.6?
We were almost 80%.
78%? Okay. So
I'll get the specific.
I think it's really important that we
show the comparison.
We have to think about that. That has been, this community has supported our budgets with this looming, the community overall that comes out and votes has an understanding of where we are, is my point. And I think we have to stop the doom and gloom conversation of, I hear you, Mike, I understand, it's scary as a superintendent, it's scary for us too, but it's also scary to have to
worry about years after.
To worry like this all the time. Our community does support this district. 78% last year voted yes.
And
so it is true. I mean, it's not like we were at like 61% that support. We were at 78%. That's solid. So I think that's what we're saying as a group, that we are collectively comfortable looking at different parameters and selling this as we want to retain as much program as we possibly can to stay competitive in Westchester County and New York State for all of our students, because we have programs like we have that have inspired our kids. I mean, my children were inspired going to school here. I would not want to see a kid not have opportunity like Project Lead the Way. That is exactly why these students, and I know many of them, are choosing the pathways they're choosing in their futures and in their careers, and why are they going to certain schools. We did that here. We want to make sure we can retain as much of that as possible to keep the children inspired in whatever pathway they love and enjoy, with an understanding that we do have a community that solidly supports our schools. So,
and I just wanted to promote, we will be posting our meet and greets that are going to be coming up during the budget season. That would be a great time for community members who are unsure of what does this impact have for me to come out and speak to us and give us feedback. Like, this way we're not going to be blindsided and surprised the day of the vote. If people want to come to meetings, come to our meet and greets for a small, small group discussion, we would love that, so that because we're speaking on behalf of our community right now, so we would love to hear from the community to see if they support what we're saying, or they're like, no, we want to stay below, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the things to just highlight, just on the spreadsheet that or the presentation that was done, right? If we did $9.3 million, it's a $212 increase. It's less than $1 a day currently, right? I would like to see what those numbers look like going over the cap, so that we can see what it looks like going over the cap. So maybe it's $300. You know, I mean, it's good to show these numbers so people understand it, because if you told me I could pay $300 now and whatever and keep going, instead of just falling off the cliff and all this uncertainty later after 2030, because there's so much uncertainty. We don't even know what state aid's going to look like, and that's been like a place that we've actually gotten more money every year, right? Like, what if something happens and we're not preparing? And I think as a board, and again, I just need to speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I just feel like we've done the best that we could do for a very long time, but I think it's time to educate the community on what it needs to look like going forward, so that everybody that lives here could survive and stay here.
And people can plan year to
Yes,
year.
absolutely.
As best as they can, you know, knowing what to expect year over year in a limited way, obviously.
And I just want to say, as uncomfortable as some conversations can be, I feel like if as a team sitting at this table, we all do our best and speak to all of the people that we know and communicate to them why we're doing it, what that dollar looks like, explain it to them, and have them ask us questions, give us their feedback. Maybe, like Amelia said, maybe people don't want that. Maybe they wanted to just stay low. We need to engage the community to just get feedback, and then we can make an informed decision based on that. But I think, Jill, going forward, I would just, you know, I think we need to just see what that looks like so we can make an informed decision.
Okay, thank you, board, for your feedback and your input. We will regroup as a team and get that information prepared for our next budget presentation, which, if we go to our next slide, is the budget development calendar. You can see some key milestones there. In particular, you'll notice the school budget vote and board election on May 19th, 2026. We skip to the next slide deck. We will, as the board mentioned, we will be publishing some dates for meet and greets with the Board of Education, where you can ask questions of the board and of myself about the budget development process as we go through there. And once we do have an adopted budget that we can detail and explain, there will be a number of feedback mechanisms, including a thought exchange. Ms. Figuerella and I will have virtual town forums and in-person forums at various days of the week and various times of the day, so that people who have schedules that might not adhere to a particular date or time can be flexible and attend there, and we will videotape those so that they can be seen as well. And then additional, just some mandatory reminders that we want to start, I'm sorry, Greg, if we go. Next one. Continue to go forward. Looks like there's a repeat. There we go. Just some mandatory reminders that we have related to the budget, including contingency budget, what the budget format is, and our public hearing. And then the next slide is the end of our presentation. So thank you to the Board of Education for their attention and their input in helping us begin this process of developing a budget. In April, we can feel comfortable going to the community that best represents our educational values and goals. Yes?
Can I just add one more comment at the end? I know it's all about showing numbers and everything to the community as well, but I think sometimes we are worried about the community members that don't have kids in the district. So I think just even things like we did tonight with the 2 different programs we have, and Chloe talking about the sports, and reminding people why we have all these programs and what is so great about the district, and how so many people that even grew up around here, moved back here, you know, and stay here. It's just, you know, a good reminder when you can, and have the meet and greets or the town forums, just to remind people like what the programs actually do. Like they're in the Project Lead the Way, and they're going on now to go into medical school or different nursing programs and things like that. So I think it's, you know, so many spreadsheets and numbers and things, but I think putting real life experiences with it is important as well.
Remembering the why.
Well, this conversation, very well put, this conversation was a needed conversation to have to help us get some direction, and we will spend less time in previous board presentations focusing on this conversation, because we'll get the numbers that we have and we can tweak with you, and focus on the athletic presentation that you saw, the transportation, but definitely focus on the fact that the budget in all of its spreadsheets is a representation of our educational values. So that concludes the budget presentation this time.
Where are we now?
We are up to the consent agenda, item number 8 out of 15, 20. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Can I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we do have 2 items that were removed from the consent agenda, which are donations. The first one is a donation for 4 guitars for the Hendrick Hudson High School Music Department. And that is from Mr. Joseph Cohen, who has donated 4 guitars to the high school music department for a total estimated cost of $300. There are the 4 guitars there listed. And I would ask for a motion from the board to approve this donation totaling $300 for the 4 guitars.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor? Okay, the second donation is from the class of 1980 alumni to support the Hendrick Hudson High School students. So the class of 1980 alumni has donated a check for $400 to be used to support the high school and its students. So I'd ask for a motion to approve this donation totaling $400.
To approve the donation.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you to our donors.
And back over to you, Mike, for the superintendent's.
Yes, so out of respect for everyone's time, and my update was included in the budget presentation. We spent the majority of our time focused on that to make sure that we were informed for you. So I will ask the cabinet, have a good evening, get home safe, and thank you for all of your help as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there were no questions requiring follow-up. There is one outstanding one that was submitted through the Just Ask format, which I will respond to in that related to the first responders exemption. But I will follow up on that offline. It's the question and answer button that we have on top of our website. If you have a question. Yeah, it's on.
So then next we have committee reports. Does anybody have any updates on the committee reports?
Oh, you're going to start.
No, you can start right here. Go right ahead.
No, I was just going to say, our committee report was the finance presentation and navigating through that. So that's sort of our work in progress.
Facilities, you saw part of it there, and we are still looking at coming up with our 10-year plan and item list for that. Centennial will be up. Anything else?
If people are not yet following the PTA Advocacy Committee, I suggest that you get on their mailing list, because Lisa just sent out an amazing email full of every single link for all of the legislative actions that will benefit our district and ways that our community members can get involved. So if you're not already on the PTA Advocacy Committee's email list, jump on, because there's going to be a lot of calls to action to get our elected officials involved in being the, to use Mike's term, to be our hero and get us some much needed sources of revenue. So
Allison, how do you get onto that list? Everyone, it's eye contact. So anyone that's on the, anyone that's subscribed through the PTA is also in the PTA Advocacy Committee email address. They're all in that. The community list on there is probably only a couple hundred people.
I think there's a link on our website to sign up for emails.
Is it, I guess, is it possible for us to like send that, like, is it, do they, I wonder if they send that kind of stuff to like the senior centers, like the Buchanan, team that meets?
That's a great question. So there's actually an email address. I'm just gonna say it. If you're not on the list, just send them an email and say, sign me up, pta.advocacy@henhudschools.org. They'll put you on the list. And then once you're on there, there's actually a ton of links. It says, sign up here. Do you have a friend who would like the emails? So if you know somebody who'd be interested, forward them the email. Click on the link, send an email. Just, this is a really important way over the next few months that we're gonna try and rally the community to try and get the support that our district needs.
Vineetha, can we add to eye contact?
I don't support.
I know, but can that, if
We
they,
can add on to the list of people, the subscription group. There is actually a PTA advocacy subscription group, so we can add to that. So when they're sending out an eye contact, it's to all those people who subscribe for it. We also have on our website under community, a mail list that you can actually join for the alumni, so we can add to that if you want,
We
and
should
collect
probably.
information through that.
we probably should ask if they want to subscribe to our community email newsletters?
I think we do have a checkbox for that.
Okay, then that would be this similar to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So take a look at that. It's on our district website under community, and it's a join our mailing list.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody? Audience comments? Anyone sign up on agenda items?
No.
Echo.
Anybody's still awake?
Board comments and new business. We have 2 items under here, and the first one is a draft for the 26-27 or how to press HUD calendar.
I'm confused why I'm just looking to be educated, why the calendar is under board comments and new business. I've never seen that there.
We decided to have a conversation about it. Is it
Oh.
put it under the consent
Rather
agenda?
than consent agenda.
Right, we decided to have a
Oh,
conversation
we're talking about
it.
it. Okay, cool.
We're opening it up to
Why are
board
we
discussion.
opening it up for discussion? Yeah.
Opening it up to board discussion rather than having to make you go through a motion to pull it.
Did you want to say anything before?
Got it.
No,
I just have
this
one
this
question.
calendar reflects a collaborative approach between the HHEA, led by Lauren Scollins, between the HHEA, a number of our other collective bargaining units, we normally start at a point where you take a look at the proposed PNW BOCES calendar, and then we look at all of our collective bargaining agreements to make sure that there's a balance, there's feedback elicited over a number of meetings, and this is the net result of that has come out of it.
So I just had one question, and you kind of probably answered it already. HHEA is okay with this, because I do see that it has only one superintendent's conference day before the start of the school, and everyone's okay with that. Because with that, I also really like the fact that those other PD days are spread out, so it's like something can come up and we can do something, like it's not, because usually it's always like, it's always like jam-packed in the beginning. So I do kind of like this. I just wanted to make sure that the teachers union was okay with that configuration.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Lauren led those conversations.
So now we bring this back to vote in the consent agenda?
No, we can.
You could make a
vote
resolution
right now,
if you'd
just
like to
on
do it
this.
now.
Do we want to do it now, or do we want to give the community another opportunity to just weigh in on it, one way or the other?
What can they weigh in on, really? Because so much of it is contractual.
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say, I don't
know.
I think it's more of,
I mean, I don't know. I think that people are going to be surprised to see the kids come in before Labor Day.
But can we change it?
Not really.
I don't
If you want February
because
break.
Not everyone's
well, is the rule before that, or is it September 1st?
So it's September 1st.
Yes, I don't think it's a Labor Day thing. Labor Day's late this year. I don't think it's you start after Labor Day. I think it's starting September 1st, if I believe.
I'm okay with us just, I can.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
So you
I'd
need a
like to
motion.
make a motion to approve the 2026-2027 calendar.
Second?
All in favor? Okay. Second thing on our board comments new business is the Centennial update.
So, I don't know if we have like I mean, I can give you my perspective from what I'm working on the update, but Lauren can probably share a little bit more, Lauren, about the events timeline, which I think is now, is our events timeline up yet?
It's not up
No.
yet, as of noon
events
today, it was
timeline.
not there, so that's why we only included the save the date, so we can kind of just promote that as much as possible, and we included the website so people can go as the updates come, and they can go there to see all of the events that are gonna happen. And we did a little blur about, the school's history, so it's there.
Okay, so.
Does the committee have any additional updates that they'd like to share?
Just that the tickets for the Centennial Gala are going on sale in February, right, Lauren?
And where will people be able to find that sale?
Well, a link's gonna go out, right?
Yeah, so thanks to the HHCEF, we have a special website that will be coming out for tickets to be purchased at various different levels. So individual seating or table seating, and different sponsor levels. And that will all go out through one website promoted by the HHCEF. Awesome. And we'll link it on the Centennial page on the website, which is at the top of our website, thanks to Vanitha. The other two events that will be happening during the month of May to support the Centennial is a time capsule, unveiling the time capsule, and there is a sub-page on this website now about the time capsule and a little bit about what we know and what we're going to be learning about it, as well as we're planning on ways for our current community to be involved in the next iteration of the time capsule. And then we're working on a more of like a living museum or a movie to celebrate and to share across the last 100 years the different artifacts that we've collected and will be collecting from community members and showcasing that through an event here at the high school as well as some building tours.
And to build on that, we are working on a form to send out to the community to ask people if they have photos, if they have vintage video from their 5th grade graduation or their prom, or a lot of people might have video that's not like converted. We're going to send out a form, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It will have instructions on where to upload, how to upload. If you want to go old school and come to meet us and give us your stuff, that we'll scan and give it back to you. So we are doing a call for like all sorts of footage and videos to add to, for all years, starting in 1926 until now.
And we're really hoping when we open that time capsule, there's gold bars in there.
Yes.
Additionally, we have great subcommittees, as Corey mentioned. We have a time capsule subcommittee who's working a lot with our facilities, trying to identify the location and opening and plans around that, and how we're going to have students interact, how we're going to have that be part of the whole celebration. We also had an email go out through our system inviting alumni groups to make sure that if they have a connection, to connect them to us, because we want to make sure that we see alumni individuals really celebrate this with their year, with their decade. So it's at all hands on deck for the Sailor Pun approach to making sure we really do use this as an opportunity to build more of that energy and more of the goodwill within the community. So thank you to all those who are helping.
Thank you, and I know we had it up on the screen, but just to now verbally say it out loud, save the date for the gala, which is on May 30th. Okay. Policy readings, we have 8 first readings, and then we are, wait, thank you guys. Thank you. Okay, so these are all first readings, and they will come back in our next meeting with any feedback and modifications needed to be made before we do our second reading. So the first one that we have is first reading of a revision of policy 2210, board organizational meeting. The Board of Education recognizes.
Second.
All in favor? This was a policy that we had just updated last year, and since that time, notification came out of a change that we had to make that was from the state, I believe. Yeah, it was just within that first part, it was that we had to hold it by the first Wednesday. Now they're saying just by the 20th day in July.
It's not changing what we are doing right now, but it gives a little more flexibility if needed. So that was more of a legal change.
Yeah, we're just changing that, the dates.
And like I said, it won't impact how we're planning, but it gives a little leeway in case of traveling or availability.
Are we, because that's a state law, right?
Yes.
So can we just waive the second reading and vote on it tonight?
We could.
Because I mean, yeah.
We could. That's the only thing we changed.
Yeah, it was just
Nothing else changed.
that one
Do
date,
it.
because that was
Do it.
legal.
Yeah.
Give it, do it.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the second reading of Board Policy 2210, Board Organizational Meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Board Organizational Meeting Policy 2210.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, this one,
I think I'm
I don't
missing
know
one.
the order, so you
You
would.
321.7.
Or designate.
Oh, here.
Sorry, next policy will be policy 4321.7, rights of students with disabilities under section 504. And this is, that was, okay,
Yes, you have
policy
it.
number change from 5020.3. The Board of Education shall.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second?
All in favor?
Okay, so this is during our NISBA audit. You're going to see certain things where we're just basically not changing very much in the language, we're just aligning the policy numbers. This is one of those situations where we are aligning the policy number. The old policy number is 43217. The new policy number is 502.3. And within
5,000
this,
students.
we did not.
We made one change, which was just for it to also include the designee.
That's the only thing. It's exactly the same as our prior policy. It's just a number change.
Or can we vote on it?
You can.
Okay, let's waive the second reading.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the second reading.
I'm so hungry.
Second?
All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 5020.3, rights of students with disabilities. under
Second.
All in favor?
Okay. Okay. Good job, guys. Now we are at
Let's see this real.
50. Do you have 5030 now?
Oh, I do. Next, we have Matt Ward here.
50. I have
5030, yeah. So we have first reading of policy 5030, student complaints. The Board of Education believes it is
Motion to waive the
necessary.
reading?
Oops, we weren't paying attention. Second.
All in favor?
I don't, did we discuss this policy, in policy?
I know it was not,
Yes, it's a new
We did?
policy.
it was a new policy, and I think it was
Oh, here it is. So it's just, I got it. My notes are out of order.
out of
So
order, that's what this was.
the old policy was 5311.3, student complaints and grievances will now be policy 5030, student complaints.
And no changes to the text.
We just cross-checked it to our policy to make sure that we were in line. We kept the exact wording suggested by NISBA for this.
Pass.
So it's just a number change?
This is a number change, but I do believe, Carmen, we did update the language on this to be the newer language from NISBA.
Correct.
So this is different language, it's just this is the exact wording NISBA
We're
recommended.
gonna return that.
So this is what it was, it was like a sentence,
Oh, my God.
Okay.
okay?
Yeah,
So
this
And
is-
once the next meeting, when we approve that one, we can retire the other one.
Mhm.
Okay.
But we don't have that on our thing, so just so that we can be consistent, I say we bring that one back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that one had a bigger, all right, thank you, Carmen.
All right, so then we have our first reading of, policy 5030, we'll come back at our next meeting. First reading of revision policy 5160, student attendance, and a number change to 5100. Hendrick Hudson believes that
Waive the
students.
reading?
Second.
All in favor?
So this was policy 5160, it will now be policy 5100 to align with the new NISBA code, suggested code. This is student attendance. This is a lengthy, so this one is just under 6 pages, or just at 6 pages. I'm gonna read, just so everyone's very clear on what this is. I have prepared bullet points to make sure we cover all of our bases on this one. So just to go over the policy's purpose, the policy states that the student's daily participation in school is critical to academic achievement and social emotional development, and requires the district to verify absences, track attendance data, and use early interventions to improve attendance. The shared responsibility of this is between, the state says the objective is between the school and the parents. So the policy assigns parents and guardians responsibility for ensuring attendance while charging the district with creating a positive school climate and working collaboratively with families, staff, and the community. This is where it gets to be the excused versus unexcused absences. This policy defines specific excused reasons for absences and state that absences outside those categories, including family vacations, are not unexcused and may negatively impact child educational progress. Timely parent notification, excused and unexcused absences. Parents are required to notify the school on the morning of an absence, tardy or early departure, and notifications received more than 24 hours later will not be considered excused. Attendance records and transparency. Attendance is recorded daily and period by period at the secondary level, coded consistently, reviewed by administrators, and communicated annually to families. The course credits. So this, I think, is important to point out. So the policy is explaining that insufficient attendance, including both excused and unexcused absences, may result in loss of course credit at the high school level or denial of promotion at the middle school level, with appeals decided by the building principal. So this is where, if you are in a course that is a full year course and you have 20 absences, you could, doesn't matter what your grade in the class is, you could lose all of those credits. You won't have, you'll have that, you could potentially have the credit denied. If it's a half year course, it's only 10 days. There is this policy also outlines how the school will notify using a progressive notification intervention system. And on the 5th, 10th, and 15th absences to ensure families are informed. And the whole point of this is a focus on intervention, not to punish students, to make sure that they understand that attendance is important. And this is all also outlined in the Code of Conduct. There are regulations that will be written to go along with this. And on here are the attendance codes we are outlining. These match up to where your students are within the building. These are not in Infinite Campus. So that's the Infinite Campus codes.
And we just changed some of the language to be more inclusive. And this we actually spent a fairly long time going through because there was it's very informative, especially if parents are unaware of student attendance, the laws around it, because it's not the district that is saying if you're absent 10 times in a half-year course, you're gonna, that's coming from the state. So we thought it was really important that it is 6 pages, that Eric can give that bulleted list, because I know people probably are not going to read the 6 pages of the policy, but we do want them to be aware of the fact that this is like a law and how it can impact.
Yeah, this is like, when you're talking about absences, you're talking about unexcused.
No, absence.
Wait, so like my son has to go for testing and that's considered an absence?
Yes, but.
What?
So there's a difference between what the district views as excused and unexcused and what the state will count as excused and unexcused.
Well, then stop taking them out of classes.
Oh, not that. No, not within the building.
Within the building.
Not within the building.
Oh.
But that's what these codes are for.
That's what I need.
And that's it is marked though, like, so, especially on the secondary. Oh, you thought you meant like out of the building. I don't know.
Let me get,
hearing.
Can I give an example?
Yeah.
So an example would be if a parent came in and said, please excuse my son for being at a college visit. That would be seen by the school district as an excused visit, but not by the state. They're still counted as absent.
I was talking about those codes.
No, so
no,
to
those are all local.
clarify for you though,
to understand the distinction.
in the secondary level, they do period by period attendance. So if a student is pulled for testing or a lesson or something, they do have to be marked that they were not present in that class. Right, that goes back to safety.
That does not count for
but it does not count, but it is marked there. So that would be one of those codes, just so that, again.
But it's not an absence.
No, it's not an
Oh, okay.
absence.
It's not an absence.
No.
We're gonna fail.
I thought you were just pulling them out. Here and there.
Maybe, you never know.
If they have races, they get a lot of points. So the only thing for this, Carmen, is that there is a, LIB is listed twice in the code. So if we could just take out the second library code on the attendance code for the next time. Okay.
And then, oh no, that was the other one. All right. So that one will come back. Please read it. Next one we have is policy first reading of policy 5130, compulsory attendance. All children are required.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second?
All in favor? This is again, this was about the aging of students.
Yes.
When they are considered to be of school age.
5155?
5130.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
about the age, like what age they start and what age they are technically.
Yes. This was just, we don't have this policy currently. Oh, we do,
Yeah, we did.
87, so this is a revision. We approved it, it was last revised in 2016, so we're keeping the only thing we did was change the student.
And the employment.
Wait, so nothing changed?
No.
Just 2 words from
Couple of sentences. You can't see that right now.
Oh, but yeah, what's in the bold on there is what we changed.
Oh.
We'd have to
Or what
bring,
we added on.
we'd have to bring the other policy to retire it, right, and then.
No, this one doesn't.
This one's being
require-
revised with those 2 sentences.
Oh, gotcha.
This is just a revision.
Okay, so we'll bring this one back.
So then we have policy, first reading of number change to policy 5155, admission of international
Motion
students.
to waive the reading.
Second?
All in favor?
This is a direct renumbering of old policy 5155 to a new policy 5152.1. I don't think we changed a single word.
No, and we just did this policy last
Right,
week,
we're just
so.
Yeah, this was just, this is a straight up renumbering.
Okay, let's vote on it.
Motion to accept.
Motion to waive the second reading of 5155.
Second?
5152.1. Second, all in favor? Sorry, Tamika.
Oh, I can't, my computer's still cycling.
Motion to approve policy 5152.1.
Second?
All in favor? All right. And we have first reading of policy 5605, student voter registration and pre-registration. The Board of Education believes that getting
Motion to
young
waive the
people.
reading.
Second.
All in favor?
So this is a new policy
And
that
it's
is
required.
that NISBA sent to us. We're keeping the wording as is. It's outlined. Basically, it's just encouraging as part of our curriculum within our school districts that students of at least 16 years old, but not older than 18, are educated and offered the opportunity to register to vote.
And we actually learned a lot about how it's actually being implemented currently, so that was a cool thing. Because it's happening, but it was, that was just cool to see that educating our young. All right, last one we have is policy, first reading of policy 5710, school safety and educational climate, SSEC. The Board of Education is
Motion to
committed.
waive the reading.
Second?
All in favor?
This is another renumbering.
That's a new policy.
This is a new policy, school safety and educational climate report.
I'm just gonna go back for one. The last one that we just did, 5605. Can you just change the year under that first reading to 2026? Yeah, sorry.
I did not, this is a straight up required,
Yeah.
we did not have it, policy that we have to put in place. About reporting,
yeah.
school safety and educational, it's pretty straightforward. So we'll bring this one back.
Bring this one back. Okay. Motion, I'm gonna ask for the
Motion to
motion.
close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, ladies. And
Marathon, y'all.